our generation panel. Before I swear in the witnesses, small point about schedule for today. Our aim is for generation to complete the first two major sections, 2A, generation adequacy, 2B, generation optimization. Everybody with me? And one change in the sub items, if you see 2A4, distributed energy resource alternative, everybody see that? I'm going to move that to the multi-utility panel because we'll be dealing with similar subjects that involve Mr. Melendez. So we will not cover that subtopic today. I hope that doesn't cause inconvenience to the Genera witnesses. So thank you for that flexibility. Otherwise, we intend to proceed exactly down the sequence of the subtopics. Any questions about that? And as a reminder, I promised you I'll get an order out early tomorrow by email. It won't be official because it's a day off until the day after on the variety of subtopics or issues that are outstanding. I'd like to swear in the witnesses. Please stand and raise your right hand. You affirm that the testimony that you will provide today is true, correct, and based on your own and personal knowledge, and that to the best of your understanding, none of the information you will provide today is misleading or untruthful. Please answer orally in the affirmative. Welcome, gentlemen. Can I ask each, have a seat? Thank you for being here. Can I ask each of you to introduce yourselves, starting with Mr. Sullivan? Into the microphone. Can I get everybody's attention, please? Thank you.
My name is William Sullivan. I am the project manager for the project formulation team of PREPA. I work specifically with the hydro assets and the federal projects and federally funded projects that they are undertaking.
Thank you. Mr. Osorio.
Hi, good morning. My name is Fernando Osorio. I am the Director of Operations for the hydro and irrigation system for PREPA.
Thank you. Mr. Scoot. Thank you, sir. Mr. Quinoy.
Hello, Joaquin Quinoy, VP of Engineering, Construction and Maintenance at Genera.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Morning to everyone. My name is Justo Gonzalez. I am a consultant, the Negociado de Energía de Puerto Rico.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let me introduce my excellent colleague, Mr. Rafael Sosa. He will be handling the supermajority of the questions today. What I intend to do is what we have been doing is that with each subtopic that are listed on the agenda, Mr. Sosa or myself will begin the questions, and then we'll have the cross-examination and the redirect for each of these items within the subtopic. Does that work for everybody? And if there's some kind of subject that is important and falls outside of one of the subtopics, just signal me and we'll find a space for it. But I want to try to keep the transcript as coherent as possible. So with that, Mr. Sosa.
Muchas gracias. Muy buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es el licenciado Rafael Sosa. Soy consultor del negociado de energía. Before I continue, I'll double check that everybody has their translation devices working. And again, just for those who speak only English, this panel will be mostly in Spanish. So anyone that needs translation.
I have a housekeeping matter. Is that one of my witnesses, it feels more comfortable testifying in Spanish, but Mr. Sullivan even though he knows Spanish, he feels more comfortable testifying in English. So I just wanted to inform that so we can accommodate that.
As indicated in my most recent order, there've been a lot of orders. That is absolutely fine. However, people wish to speak is, of course, their choice. Thank you very much for that reminder, Ms. Valle.
Buenos días, nuevamente. Empezando con Genera, y muchas gracias por la asistencia de todos los panelistas. Me gustaría entender en Genera, ¿quién es el que toma o qué grupo de personas toman la determinación de cuál es la fuente de financiamiento? O sea, definir si es ingreso de la tarifa, si es ingreso de fondos federales u otros, que debe usarse para un proyecto en particular. ¿Quién toma esa determinación?
Joaquín Quiñoy, vicepresidente de Genera. Better? Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure any of that's making it into the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
The translator said that they can't hear you.
You can hear me now? Good. So again, Joaquín Quiñoy, Vice President of Engineering, Construction, and Maintenance for Genera. Okay, good. Regarding your question, Genera by itself, right, is a company that actually maintains the PREPA assets, right? That's the PIOMA.
I'm sorry to interrupt again. We can't really hear you at this end of the room. If you can speak closer to the mic.
Can we pass that microphone down to this gentleman, please? All right, sir.
Can you hear me now? Better?
Yeah, always look let's speak right into the microphone, sir. Let me hear you, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, is that good? Can you hear Mr. Brady? Okay,
thank you.
Please start all over again. Would
No
you mind,
problem.
sir?
Not
Thank
a
you for your
problem.
patience.
No worries. Joaquín Quiñoy, Vice President for Engineering, Construction, and Maintenance for Genera. Regarding your question, Genera pretty much has a contract to maintain the assets from PREPA. As that, we actually execute projects that are for the FEMA funded projects that are already under the consolidated program in PREPA. So if it's within the consolidated program of projects that they have in FEMA, we will execute those. Otherwise, if they're not approved by PREPA, we don't execute federal funded projects. So it has to start from there. And then from there, we will execute the projects. If it's a NME project, we will execute NME projects with our funds. And if it aligns with the already approved projects, then we will ask for that funding for that project from federal funds.
Señor Quiñoy, muchas gracias. Y para entender entonces qué rol, si alguno, toma Genera en la participación de esa determinación de qué proyectos van a ser solicitados. ¿Es una función estrictamente que PREPA ejerce o hay alguna participación de parte de Genera en esa evaluación para ir proyectos de las actividades de Genera?
If it aligns with a pre-approved project, we will ask for that to be approved and put into that one. As long as PREPA approves that project, we will execute, but it's not a Genera determination. We will do it under federal funds. We have to ask for that.
Okay, entonces vamos.
And I understand there will be a federal panel later on. If you would like to go deeper into those details, they could probably give you further detailed information on that.
Por supuesto. En términos de su función y de la evaluación de los proyectos, si nos puede dar un ejemplo de cómo sería el proceso en el cual usted identifica un proyecto en específico del NMI que es necesario, ¿en qué parte del ejercicio usted evalúa, si lo hace, si podría cualificar para financiamiento federal, tales como el programa FEMA o DOE?
Selection of the programs or the outages or the
I'm
investment.
sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt. The questions and answers are happening so quickly that the translator is not able to keep up. And so it's impossible for us to actually follow the question and answer without a pause in between.
First of all, I appreciate Mr. Brady bringing that up. I have had the same experience that we're going to need Mr. Quinoy to ask you to pause after you hear the question.
Okay.
For about 3 or 4 seconds. I know you're eager to get to the answer very fast, and we appreciate that because we have a lot to do, but we're going to need you to take that short pause. And Mr. Brady, we're going to see if that helps, because that's the basic problem is you're trying to hear the rest of the question, and he started on the answer, and you're starting to feel insecure about how whether this is going to go on for all day. So with that, Mr. Brady, any other questions for now?
No, that's all. Thank you.
All right, well, you keep us straight and honest, and that's going to be just what we need. Would you mind, Mr. Sosa, repeating the last question? Can I go backwards for 1 second? Mr. Quinoy, welcome. My name is Scott Hempling. I'm the hearing examiner. You spoke in response to Mr. Sosa's prior question about the relationship between GENERA and PREPA in terms of initiating a particular project. You recall that?
Mhm.
Okay, you may have answered this and I missed it, but does the initial idea come from you and then from GENERA and then you go to PREPA, or do you wait for PREPA to have the good ideas, or does it work both ways, sir?
It works both ways. If we see something that can be added to an existing PW from FEMA, we will request it and then we can add it. Major projects, major investments, we'll probably have to go to them.
Well, you're always going to have to go to them
Yep.
to get approval, correct?
Correct. Yep.
I guess my question is this: as the operator of the generation system, do you consider it yourself your obligation under the OMA, under the contracts, to determine what are the necessary projects and to press for the approval of those projects from PREPA? Do you view it as your obligation?
Yes, we have done that and we have identified projects that we have pushed through.
And you view it as your obligation that you are the initiator?
Yes, in the terms of identifying the opportunities, yes, we identify the opportunities.
You seemed hesitant about the question. I don't mean to suggest you were, but are you hesitant about that, uncertain
No.
about your
No,
obligation?
I'm trying to see how I best respond to your question.
Thank
So
you.
we identify the opportunities and suggest them.
You say the opportunities, but I assume you identify the necessities. Is
Necessities,
that
yeah.
correct?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
well, it's a difference because there will be a necessity. It could go into NME, it could go into federal. If it's an opportunity, what I mean is it's maybe an opportunity to be under federal funds.
Okay, you start with the necessity, then you figure out where the money's going to come from.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, sir.
Gracias, señor Quinoy. Y en esa misma línea de preguntas, volviendo a un ejemplo concreto, si usted nos permite, ¿en qué parte del proceso de evaluación de un proyecto de NMI, por ejemplo, usted contempla si el proyecto cualificaría y cómo inicia entonces el proceso para que ese proyecto pase por el pipeline federal?
So, to my understanding, and again, the persons that probably could best respond to this is the federal funds panel. But the opportunities or the investments or the necessities are brought bottoms up usually. So we discuss with the end users what are the needs, right? When we define the needs and the specifications and what we need to execute, then we start seeing the areas or the opportunities, as I mentioned before, whether it may fall under federal program as described, if we have an already ongoing project that can accept this additional cost and we can request it, or if it's altogether something that is new and it needs to have a new approval through it.
Específicamente bajo el programa FAST, ¿está familiarizado con ese programa de Huracán María?
A little bit. I'm not an expert on FEMA funds. I have people under my team that are the experts to discuss and do these things with FEMA funds.
Y en su mejor entendimiento sobre este programa, los fondos que están disponibles para FAST, ¿están atados a algún daño específico de una instalación?
Tendría que revisar con mi equipo. I will have to review with my team to get back to you specifically on each and every of the projects. But there's projects based on results from Maria, for example, and we have projects identified to rehabilitate based on that, right?
Pero en su experiencia atendiendo este tipo de proyectos que están financiados por fondos federales, ¿está circunscrito este programa a eventos que causaron daños por consecuencia de María, o en su experiencia usted ha atendido proyectos que han sido financiados por FAST que no sufrieron daños a consecuencia de María?
No te podría contestar esa pregunta. I'm probably not the best person to answer that question, but we can actually defer that to the federal funds team that can answer that.
Gracias, señor Quiñoy, y ciertamente tendremos un panel federal donde estaremos indagando más a fondo sobre eso. Para propósitos del día de hoy, si es posible, levantar el Exhibit 887. El Exhibit 887 es también conocido como el 22.3, que es la tabla de Excel donde se muestran finanzas óptimas y constrictivas. Si podemos ir a la pestaña D1, óptimo. Señor Quiñoy, cuando tenga la tabla, por favor, confirmar para...
Okay.
Sí.
We have it.
Muchas gracias. Si se fija en la tabla, Genera está proponiendo una asignación de fondos de capital no federales para el año fiscal 26 de $235 millones. Para el año fiscal 27, 276 millones. Y para el año fiscal 28, 257 millones. ¿Eso es correcto, señor Quiñoy?
Ustedes tienen el último. Do you have the latest schedule that was submitted?
Sí.
My understanding is this is Exhibit 22.3 revised,
Right.
REV revised. Is that the one you have in
Okay.
front of you?
Okay.
Do you see that, sir?
Yeah.
And do you see the corresponding numbers, the numbers corresponding to the figures that the questioner just asked, sir,
234. Yes.
at the top?
Yeah.
Okay, ready for the next question? Ready for the next question?
Yes. Sir.
Excellent.
Señor Quiñoy, lo que quisiera entender de estos números es por qué estos proyectos no están en el pipeline federal, por qué no están en algunas de las partidas FAST, FIONA, Departamento de Energía, que están disponibles para este tipo de proyectos.
The reason why I asked if this is the final schedule is because we did do a revision of the schedule and submitted already a reduction for projects that have been approved by the OE. So when we believe a project may be capable of falling in within the expected guidelines so that we can actually push it through a federal program, we requested, as it was approved by the OE, we had several projects that were moved or pushed from NME into the OE federal funds. And as we request other ones that have been approved into FEMA, we have reduced those from the schedule. So the team reviews it. The ones that we believe fall under the existing PWs and that we can request, we do. When it gets obligated and approved by FEMA, we take them out. There's a discrepancy, you may say. There's a need. We identify the need, but it's still an enemy project unless it gets approved by the parties that have to do all the evaluation. FEMA, PREPA, etc. PREP needs to approve the project for us to then move it into federal. And that's what we have done, and that's what the latest schedule reflects, a reduction versus our original one of all the projects that have been approved federally.
Y cuando usted habla de la modificación que hizo, estas cuantías ya son el neto después de haber movido los fondos. ¿A qué grant o a qué subvención usted se refiere?
There's several grants, DOE amongst them, and FEMA specific. Which FEMA project? I don't have it with me. If you require that, we can send you something later. I can take a note and send you that. But if they get obligated, we get notified and we take it from the list and put them on the federal funds list of projects.
Okay. Sí.
I just want to verify, is this the revised version? We have revised 10/29 to 2025. Is that the latest version you're referenced for, that we need to take into consideration, or?
Scroll down, please. And while you're doing that, can I ask Council Ms. Vasquez a question? Because it sounds like we have so I'm looking at what I used to call Exhibit 22.3 REV. Is that the most recent Excel that Genera has sent to everybody, that
Yeah.
document?
Yes, that is the most recent document.
Okay, but is the witness seems to be saying that there have been funding. The witness is implying that there's a difference between what is in Exhibit 22.3 Rev and the actual receipts or obligations from the federal government. Is that correct?
There shouldn't be, but if there's any discrepancy, we can talk it in a break and verify. But
Okay.
this is the last version.
Okay, because right now what I'm looking at has a long list of projects that are in the non-federal CAPEX category. And the question that Mr. Sosa is asking is, why are all of these items in that category and not in the federal funded category? And what the gentleman is answering is that that may not be true, or that's what we're inferring from his answer. And that's causing me and Mr. Sosa and Commissioner Torres and everybody else in the room some confusion. So do you know whether there have been changes to this status? Do you know?
There haven't been.
There
that
have
I
not
know.
been.
No. If you scroll down this document, you'll see on the left side of the columns marked with red. Those are the projects that have been taken out from this list because they have been obligated by federal funds. So this is the last version of these schedules.
Got it?
And I apologize, I didn't see the remarks. That's why I was asking. I do see them now, and it's good. That's already been removed. The projects that have been pushed into federal programs.
Gracias por la aclaración, comisionado Torres. Sí. That's right. Señor Quiñoy, y para entonces confirmar que ya estamos, por decir, todos en la misma página. Este documento que estamos viendo ya refleja con una marca roja de X los proyectos que fueron retirados de la petición de tarifa porque recibieron subvención federal, ¿cierto?
Correcto.
Y específicamente estas X que vemos en este exhibit corresponden a qué subvención en particular.
Es una, sorry. Okay. So it's a mix. Mostly it's DOE, the funds that have been approved by the DOE recently, but there's also some federal projects included in there.
El 3 de julio ustedes sometieron testimonio con una petición de la revisión tarifaria y el 31 de octubre ustedes someten esta nueva enmienda a la petición. Lo que usted está diciendo es que en adición a los fondos del Departamento de Energía que ustedes anunciaron, también esa enmienda contempla otras subvenciones más allá del Departamento de Energía.
I will need to revise each item personally one by one, but I do believe there, besides DOE reductions, there were several projects that were included there from FEMA that were approved as well, obligated. So we reduce them when they get obligated. That's when we know that we have the funds to execute.
Y ya que esta enmienda es relativamente reciente, ¿nos podría dar una explicación de cómo compara la solicitud original del 3 de julio con la solicitud que nos están haciendo el 31 de octubre? ¿Cómo compara esa nueva composición de proyectos que usted está pidiendo que el negociado evalúe para financiar con la tarifa?
The only difference from the originally submitted until now is just the reduction of the line items. So basically, we identify the projects already that we require and believe that are necessary to rehabilitate the system. And from there, we reviewed it, discussed it, submitted the request into DOE and FEMA on additional projects. The ones that so far have been approved have been removed from the list. That's the difference that you see there.
Entonces, para entender esos proyectos que usted remueve, la decisión de remover esos proyectos, ¿quién la toma? ¿Es una decisión que dicta el Departamento de Energía específicamente por proyecto? ¿O es una cuantía que el Departamento de Energía le asigna y usted entonces como compañía genera, determina qué proyectos remover? ¿Cuál es la dinámica en esa relación?
Lo voy a decir en español para que quede claro, porque el mensaje es bastante confuso afuera. DOE es una agencia federal. Quien tiene la jurisdicción, quien establece la política pública local, como en todas las jurisdicciones en los Estados Unidos, es el Commission. Está en los que estamos sentados aquí. Eso de decir que el DOE me dijo, siempre y cuando cumpla con la política pública. Lo que sí el DOE puede decir, si tú incorporas y convences al Estado, negociado de energía, de que incluya este proyecto, yo te lo voy a financiar. Eso está perfectamente bien. Pero decir, el DOE me dijo, pon este proyecto a expensas de ir en contra de la política pública, las decisiones de negociación de energía, quiero que quede bien claro. Eso no se va a aceptar. Así tampoco se va a aceptar que estén buscando financiamiento de FEMA a expensas de otros proyectos previamente aprobados por el negociado de energía, ya sea para transmisión y distribución, generación hidroeléctrica, lo que sea. Ahora bien, siempre es bienvenido, is more than welcome, any additional funds to cover any project not already obligated by FEMA and not already approved by the Bureau. So I want to establish this in the very beginning. Okay? Thank you.
Yendo a esa línea, ¿qué metodología entonces se utilizó para hacer estos cambios de estos proyectos?
Cuando se somete el requisito al Departamento de Energía, I apologize, I changed to Spanish, my apologies. When we submit the request for the DOE and when they approached us to understand and validate what projects they were going to fund, they had to be projects that were immediate, that had a turnaround in a specific amount of time, and that made an impact on the system, on the ability to generate, right? So the projects that we had already identified, several of the projects that we had identified as needs that were submitted in the rate case were put in there because we could push those projects and get their funding and execute them within the allotted time from the DOE. That's the reasoning how we approached the projects that were submitted to the DOE.
VP of Operations, just want to throw my 2 cents in this. When you see the extensive list, and if the question is why isn't that FEMA?
Please get into the microphone, sir.
I'm sorry. Vladimir Shka, VP of Operations for NETA. So just giving my 2 cents on this. When you look at this extensive list and you ask the question, why haven't it been put on FEMA or DOE? From my understanding, when we came in, there was a list of projects that were already funded through FEMA. We went ahead and looked at the projects that were vetted already. Say, okay, look, this is all FEMA funds, no problem. As we start going through the list and we're doing our analysis, yes, like Ms. O'Keefe says, hey, this could be DOE, this could be FEMA. Let's present it to see if we can get it. The ones that they approve, we remove. The ones that they don't approve need to be funded locally, right? So that is my understanding when it comes to the list and the projects that were here. Okay, so we were handed the units as is. Right? It's almost like you're running a relay race and they pass you the baton. We had to run with the baton. Well, the baton was full of grease, and we can't drop it. And if we drop it, we fail. So we had to look at every single project that we had here, whether if looking at the budget that we currently allocated and how we're going to execute these, and if they could be done via federal or FEMA or whatever grant Uncle Sam decides to give us, we try to push it that way. But we have to report up. We give them the list of what we want. They have to go in and say, yes, we can do this, and then we could push it through. Okay?
So are you saying with respect to the items that remain under, for example, the fiscal year 2026 non-federal, the $235 million, are you saying that each of those projects are projects that are still under HENETA's consideration for the possibility of federal funds, or are you saying that you have already gone through that entire list and decided with certainty that they are all ineligible? That's my question.
Yes, we've gone through the list. Whatever we thought was eligible, we presented. We could go back to the list and see, hey, let's try this. But when it comes to maintenance or certain repairs, if it's FEMA, it has to be done during if it was a hurricane. We're looking at, hey, all the hurricane items, all that's been allocated, all that's been worked on. So we're looking at other things to help us sustain the units as is, or try to get them a little bit better, reliable. So as we go through the list, we say, hey, let's see, can we throw this in? We throw it in. You can't put an outage, as a FEMA fund or DOE, because it's just regular. It's what's required to perform. So when you look at it, it's a lot of the material that goes to doing the outages and so forth. If it's a major project that came from a DOE or catastrophe, I'll say, hey, look, let's see if we could pass this through, through DOE. And that's most of the items that were removed. There was actually items that weren't on this list that we went ahead to DOE to say, hey, look, this is what we need. They approved it. And whatever was on this list originally that got approved, we took it out.
Right. Once again, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. And if I'm misstating what your understanding is, just tell me.
Okay.
What we see on the list now with respect to the column that has the $235 million, that complete list represents your Haneta's final determination of ineligibility for federal funds. Is that correct? Or are these still under discussion as having the potential for being eligible for federal funds? Do you understand my question, sir?
Yeah. And I
Sir.
just wanted to add, Joaquin, again, VP of Engineering, Construction, and Maintenance for Haneta. We have responded in some ROIs already on that question. And I just want to make clear that I keep the same message. There are some projects that could qualify that are not submitted and that would require PREP's approval and PREPA for us to go out and request them. We've already testified to some of those projects. The important thing is timing as to when we submitted this rate case and where we're at right now and where we believe that this is a project that is needed. There may be an opportunity later on some instances that were already responded on the ROIs that could go under federal funding. As of today, they're not. And we need to be at least diligent of identifying the opportunities. And since they're not approved, they are on this list.
Okay, I know we're getting closer to the answer to my question. I know you gentlemen are trying.
Yes.
I think we're not there yet.
Okay.
So let me ask it let me ask the same question again. Go ahead, sir.
As of right now, yes. Everything that's on this list, we think, we vetted through it, and we don't believe that it approves for FEMA funds. We're going to we'll resubmit the list to PREPA, see if they could validate and say, yes, maybe you could add this, let's go for it. But as of today, right now, I'm going to have to say, yes, this is what we currently have.
That's the clarity I'm looking for. I'm going to put it in my own words for a minute. With respect to this rate case, everything on this list of $235 million are items for which you are asking customer funding because it is your present determination that there is no chance of eligibility, but you are going to take another shot at it just in case. Is that my understanding of what you're saying, Mr. Scood?
Yes, sir.
Every one of them you're going to think is still possible, or there's some that you think is just
not everyone. There's
some of them are hopeless.
Some of them are hopeless, but hey, for the sake of the ratepayers, we'll try it again. We know we did our due diligence and our best to try to ask for funds and not trying to hinder, putting on the ratepayer. But eventually,
okay. I got it. And of course, everybody in the room knows that one of the major topics for the federal funds panel is to discuss Mr. Guimel Cortez's idea of how to manage the possibility that customers pay now for something that later receives federal funds and how to manage that risk. And I hope to have from the federal panel discussion some insights about how we can handle that. But right now, I think what you're telling me is that there are some in this column that you think are hopeless, so you're not going to ask PREPA to go over every single one of them. Is that correct, Mr. Scood?
That's correct.
And so it will be Haneta's decision which ones to identify from this long list and ask PREPA to think about, and you think about it. It won't be every single one of them. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much for your patience.
I have a follow-up question for Joaquin, if I may. Joaquin, you mentioned that DOE takes into consideration the impact of the system when they decide which projects. Can you explain that? And does that take into consideration the amount of people it impacts?
Thank you for your question, Commissioner. Yes, the DOE was looking at providing funds to make sure that we pushed forward as much projects as we could in order to generate electricity faster. Units that are down. We were underfunded on some projects. We had some force outages that the first account that I believe is something that we may be talking about later was depleted, and they came up with the funds for us to be able to execute that project and finalize it. Among with that one, other ones that we had identified here as projects that were going to be done in this fiscal year and a little bit pushing into the next fiscal year, which are the ones that we removed out, they approved. Amongst them, I can tell you, for example, the repair of Cambalache 3, the unit that is out on a forced outage since I believe it was May. So we got the funds. We're finalizing the contract right now in order to repair the unit. The spare parts and the combustion inspection, well, steam inspection of Cambalache 2, a unit that is way over in hours and still needs to run because the system demands it, but we need to do that inspection and the replacement of those critical parts as soon as possible. We have San Juan 7, the finalization of the outage on this unit. Amongst other ones, Maya West has a turbine that is repaired by the OEM in their shop, and it's just waiting for us to finalize and get it back and install it so we can have more reliable power. So these were projects that were in the making that we needed, that we could turn around fast, and that we're going to put megawatts back into the system or rehabilitate existing megawatts that are really needed to be reliable.
Okay, thank you.
Señor Quiñoy, específicamente en el grant, en la subvención del Departamento de Energía, ¿cuánto dinero fue aprobado para Genera?
Can you repeat the question again for the grant? Can you repeat the question again for the grant?
Sí, específicamente para la subvención del Departamento de Energía, ¿cuánto fue el total que se le aprobó a Genera?
The question is a little bit misleading. Genera executes the projects. The award was given to PREPA, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so we're just executing those projects that we went through PREPA, and PREPA is the one that managed the reimbursement on the project with DOE directly.
Refraseando la pregunta, ¿cuánto es la cuantía que corresponde a proyectos de Genera?
I would need to see the final list number out of the top of my head without looking at documents. It's in the 189 or something like that, 180 something million dollars.
De esos 180 y tantos millones de dólares, esta nueva enmienda a el Exhibit 22.3 refleja dólar por dólar una reducción exacta de esos 180 y tantos millones, o es una cuantía diferente. O sea, en otras palabras, quizás para ser un poco más claro, la cuantía total que se asignó para proyectos de Genera en la subvención del Departamento de Energía está reflejada dólar por dólar en una reducción de la petición tarifaria.
Specifically to that point, the answer would be it's not one-to-one. Reason behind that, as I just explained, this is NME, but the DOE is also paying for forced outages that should come from the forced account and should be funded from there. So it's not really a one-to-one versus the projects. There were other necessities that were immediate and that should have come from a different account, but are also funded by DOE. So that's when you see the discrepancies, it's not one-to-one because it includes other accounts, not only NME.
Y de la lista original del 3 de julio, ¿existe algún otro proyecto capital que se esté financiando con esta subvención que está fuera del listado original que sometieron en la solicitud del 3 de julio?
Can you say that again, please?
Sí. De los 180 y tantos millones de dólares, ustedes hicieron unas reducciones en proyectos de capital. La pregunta es si hay otros proyectos de capital que se están financiando con esta subvención, no reflejados en esta lista.
The list that we have and that we submitted at all our projects that we require, right? There was an addition on that list, and it's something that I don't know exactly who's going to execute that, but the ones that we submitted as Genera are approved. The ones that we submitted as Genera that we wanted to execute, that we had on our list, were approved. The total, I don't know in my head, I can tell you what the total is. I will need to look at the documents for that one. Sí.
Negociado o aprobado unos proyectos
Ujú.
dentro de la tarifa y con fondos federales. Ahora apareció un nuevo amigo, el DOE. La pregunta es sencilla. En ese listado de proyectos del DOE, ¿hay alguno que no esté incluido en la tarifa y en los fondos federales? Yo sé que hay algunos y yo quiero que usted me lo conteste porque si no lo voy a llevar a que me conteste lo que yo quiero que conteste.
Okay. Chairman. Thank you.
Objection argument.
No, yo sé la respuesta, yo tengo el documento, yo tengo la lista. Así que usted conteste de su conocimiento.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
La mía.
Sí.
Y si quiere contestar la pregunta que está haciendo el presidente, es los proyectos que usted tiene en la lista que solicitó coinciden totalmente con la lista de proyectos que el Departamento de Energía está subvencionando, o en la alternativa, si existen otros proyectos fuera de esa lista de proyectos.
On the list, if you look at the list, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to find some forced outages that were projects that were forced that should have gone through the forced account, which was depleted, and DOE provided those fundings for those projects. So those are forced outage projects. They're not planned capital projects, or no, not NME projects that are planned. These are projects of outages that we had to execute because units were out, right? And we needed that funding. In regards to the list that you're saying, you're going to see some of those. For example, I mentioned San Juan 7, the finalization of the forced outage. We have Cambalache 3, for example, etc. We have Aguirre 2, we have Aguirre 1, the forced outage that the unit is out, etc. So we have several projects that are there. Those lists are the ones that we submitted and we got done. And we got approved, and we're trying to expedite the execution of those. There is a project that is something that the DOE has approved on that list. That's something that I don't understand up to where will be our interjection, if this is what you are asking for, which is a project to do the gas duct from San Juan to Palo Seco, and I believe that's probably your question.
No, esa no era.
Oh, no?
era, pero...
Okay. That's something that we
Es
need
que
to
yo
do.
no veo ¿por qué no decir lo siguiente?
Ujú.
Genera no había puesto un mantenimiento o unos arreglos porque lo podía defer. Ahora bien, resulta que el DOE is more than willing to provide funds. So they provide the funds, and now we're in a position to do some maintenance that otherwise we will defer to the next 4 years. So that's what we're talking about. You already mentioned Cambalache. You already mentioned San Juan.
Mhm.
So there is another one in the list. So that's all we want to know. So because that makes a lot of sense. Once you get additional funds, let's do the work right now, because this way we're gonna be able to provide more generation and reduce the outages. So that's the line of questioning that I'm
Okay.
trying to get you to answer.
Okay. Is there any specific project that you want me to talk about from the list? And I'll be glad to discuss it if you want.
Of course, that's the kind of that's the type of that's the information the people of Puerto Rico needs to know.
Mhm.
That you're working hard to provide some additional generation, and before you didn't ask the bureau to include that in the budget because it may be and in a tariff increase. But right now, you already have some additional funds, so you're going to use it, and the people will have this service and no tariff increase. That's
Yeah.
information that we want to
Okay.
know, and that we want you to share with the people of Puerto Rico.
By all means, I agree with you. These are necessary projects that will bring reliability, megawatts back on the system, and definitely have a significant discount on taxpayer, on ratepayers, because they will be funded through federal funds.
This is Commissioner Ramos. Good morning, everybody. So out of the 180 something million, I don't know the exact number of the DOE grant, the latest DOE grant, how many of those were in the NME budget? And what portion of that was not, let me rephrase the question. What portion of that grant will be used in projects that weren't NME projects? And now they're being, I'm sorry, now they're being used in projects like Cambalache, for instance.
Can you repeat the question more into the terms specifically of what would you
essentially-
like for us to explain directly?
Yeah, essentially we're talking about the difference or the projects that were removed from the enemy list
Mhm.
because now they're being covered by the DOE grant, right? And you mentioned that not all the $180 million are represented in those projects that were taken out of the list. So I want to know how much of the DOE grant is going towards projects that weren't enemy planned, but now Genera is going to use elsewhere, for example, in Cambalache.
Let me see if I can explain it a little bit better. These were more than likely going to end up being somewhere on the costs because it's a forced account. First account needs to be funded and they needed to be executed. So Cambalache was a forced outage.
Yeah.
That should be also funded through the forced account, but it was actually depleted. So what those funds do is Cambalache got those funds to repair the unit. So it would have been still funds that had to come from the system,
I understand that.
but they were on hold because the account was depleted.
Okay, I understand that. I'm just trying to get a percentage or a number to compare how much money of the DOE funds was planned NME
Mhm.
and how much went into the force account to tackle projects like Cambalache, which has been denied several times by the Energy Bureau.
The Cambalache project, it is not the one that has been denied by the Energy Bureau. It's a force outage on Unit 3. Out of the two units that are operational, Unit 3 sustained a force outage during an inspection that it was noted that it could not return to service. That's the one that is
That's the one that's
being
being included
funded
now.
by DOE, correct?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's a force outage. It's current execution of current machines that are running. I believe you're talking about Unit 1.
Yeah, at some
That's
point.
not under the DOE funds whatsoever. The funds were used to return to service immediately within a year and some machines or repair machines that needed either to come back to service or had to be repaired to be on service.
Okay, I'm just looking for a percentage or like what portion, roughly.
Out of the top of my head, without looking at the numbers, somewhere in the 70%, could be 60 something, 70%. That was maybe on NME from the list of the projects that we requested. I would say that were removed was about that because I believe that our optimal went down by, if I'm not mistaken, there was a discussion about 90,000. It was about $90,000, $90 million or something that we had reduced on our budget throughout the 3 years from those projects. Since
90 out of 180, so 50%.
well, you need to
Roughly?
account the projects that we're gonna do on the units. There's another project that is 50 million there. That is not a short, it's a short-term project, and that's the one that I had mentioned to the chairman about the gas duct, which is a different project. The ones that we submitted a request were the ones that could get us the units back to service as soon as possible.
Okay.
And that's from those that we requested was about that amount.
Señor Quiñoy, licenciado, si es posible obtener una lista que desglose esa proporción para tener visibilidad entonces en los proyectos de los 90 millones aproximados que se reducen en la petición tarifaria y entonces los otros proyectos que están fuera para tener esa visibilidad. Muchas gracias. ¿Sería posible esa lista para mañana? Perdón, mañana es día de fiesta, no queremos poner a nadie el siguiente día, 19.
20.
El 20.
Yeah, Friday is probably best possible. Friday.
Perfecto, muchísimas gracias.
I'm sorry, I may have lost track of the timing of this panel. Doesn't the panel end on Friday? Doesn't the generation panel end on Friday? So in other words, if we receive this Friday, we won't have an opportunity to review and cross-examine on the document.
I hear you loud and clear. This is what we'll do with best efforts. Council, you'll try to get it on Thursday night. If we get it on Friday, right now, the 25th of November, the Tuesday, is an open day for which I'm developing a lovely list of things that we can spend our time on. So please all plan on being here on Tuesday because I already have a list and this may go on that list. And does that work for you, Mr. Brady?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I appreciate your alertness as always. Thank you. Council, anything?
No, that'll be all. Thank you.
Okay, I know you're going to do the best you can so that we create a complete record that everybody is satisfied with. Next question, please.
Mr. Hamplin, this is Commissioner Mateo,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
I may. This is may look to some people as very technical and difficult to understand, but we are also having this case have the information out there for the public. So I would like for the list to be accompanied by some explanation, detailed explanation of what was moved from where, the amounts, etc. So the average person can understand what really happened and they do not feel like they are being told that money was shuffled from one column to the other without understanding, please. We need to keep that in mind, that the consumer needs to be informed and we need to give them that data.
Señor Quiñoy, y para estos proyectos que están fuera de la lista, ¿en qué proceso Genera obtiene la autorización del negociado para realizar los proyectos?
This budget list that we have submitted, we would expect that the PREP through this rate case approves the list. The important thing of this list is that, and this will be probably more discussed on the executability, is that we submit a rate case for 3 years. The approval that comes from the PREP, when it gets approved or the rate case gets approved, if the projects get approved, this allows us to perform all the procurement process and the fund and ensure the funding to make sure that we plan and execute the outages and the proposed projects. Some of these projects require public bidding, discussions, contract negotiations, etc. So one of the things that is great that you have asked that question is we would expect, or my request would be that once this rate case is approved, if this budget is approved, that means that we can work on the projects from 28 in order to make sure that we have all the requirements in terms of procurement, technical specs, and everything is worked on so that we can execute the projects as they're described on this list.
Señor Quiñoy, tenemos esta reducción de la tarifa, pero me pregunto si contamos con la seguridad del dinero. O sea, este dinero que se eliminó ya está en la cuenta de Genera o de Prepa. ¿Es seguro? ¿Hay algún riesgo de que no llegue?
To clarify, you're asking about the DOE funds and FEMA funds?
Los fondos, la subvención DOE.
DOE.
Lo que se redujo de la
Okay.
partida en la petición tarifaria.
So when it comes to FEMA, the obligation of the funds should be sufficient. When it comes to DOE, again, the person that receives the grant is PREPA. So we submit to PREPA the request for the funding, either reimbursement or advance for the projects that we're doing. And they're the ones who manage the request to DOE, get the funds into our account so that we can actually pay. And I can tell you that as of this week, we have received payment for some requests that we did already. So it's the process is running.
Perdón, señor Quiñoy, no creo que entendí la última parte. ¿Puede repetir? Está confirmando que recibieron.
We have requested, yes, we have requested refunds from DOE, and we had received, from PREPA, we have received the fund.
Gracias. Podemos subir no sé si sea necesario refrescarle la memoria, pero voy a hacer referencia al Exhibit 486. Esto es un ROI en respuesta sobre esta subvención. Página 3, por favor. En esta respuesta, usted contesta que la subvención del Departamento de Energía se aplicará retroactivamente para cubrir ciertos gastos relacionados con los proyectos de reparación de la unidad 4 de Palo Seco y la unidad 2 de Aguirre durante el año fiscal 2026.
Objection to this question. This exhibit was actually attested by.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, counsel. The translator was still going when you're talking, so I can't hear both. If you could just pause for a second.
Yes, I am a CFO Maria Sanchez Bras, not Mr. Quinoy. So these would be questions that would be more appropriate for Genera CFO when she testifies.
Well, we're happy to have her. She's right here. Do you mind if we get her up on the stand and let it happen now, please? Ms., I have to swear you in, Ms. Sanchez Bras. Would you please stand? Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you will provide today is true, correct, and based on your own and personal knowledge, and that, to the best of your understanding, none of the information you will provide today is misleading or untruthful? Say out loud, please. All right, welcome, Ms. Sanchez Bras. A pleasure to have you today. Do you need the question repeated? You have a seat, or would you like to sit there, or you can sit at the table, wherever you're most comfortable. All right, and let's test that microphone, please. Let's hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Excellent.
Okay, so do you remember the question, or would you like a repeat?
I would like to get a repeat, please. Good morning to everybody.
Buenos días, licenciada Sánchez Bras. Muchas gracias por su participación en el panel de manera imprevista. Hacer una referencia al Exhibit 486 en la página 3. Permítame confirmar cuando tenga levantado el Exhibit.
Yes, we can see it.
En esa contestación, licenciada, usted indica que la subvención del Departamento de Energía se aplicará retroactivamente para cubrir ciertos gastos relacionados con los proyectos de reparación de la unidad 4 de Palo Seco y la unidad 2 de Aguirre durante el año fiscal 2026. ¿Nos puede explicar a qué se refiere en la dinámica de la aplicación retroactiva de estos proyectos?
Okay. Thank you for that question. First of all, some of the projects that we were already engaged in were also included in this in the subvention, and I'm sure that you're going to have more information on the next panel that with the federal funds, we will get all the details that you need. But indeed, they allowed us to retroactively, for some of the spend that we had, we could use these funds. So within the fiscal year, which started in July, we are identifying some of those spends and using these funds instead of local funds, as you very well stated, to try to bring that dollar amount that Genera is using down for a saving for the ratepayer.
Muchas gracias, licenciada. En ese sentido, ¿se pudiera inferir que de la partida que el señor Quiñoy que no se refleja en la reducción de la modificación que ya usted hizo al 22.3, que pudieran haber reducciones adicionales a la petición tarifaria?
It could be. We have done a thorough review. That's why net 1-to-1, you will not see that reduction, because we also looked at years past 2026. Some of these projects take longer than a year. So you will see in total approximately 270 million that we took from this year and next year to make sure that we contemplate those DOE funds. And, once we get them to that panel, I'll bring you the details so that you can have those numbers in detail.
Gracias. Y no sé si es para el licenciado el señor Quiñoy, pero ¿cuándo se completaron esas reparaciones a las cuales alude la licenciada de la unidad 4 de Palo Seco? ¿O si se completaron ya?
Fecha exacta, no te podría, oh, sorry. Exact dates, I don't have with me right now, but somewhere around August is when Palo Seco 4 came back into the system.
Entonces, ¿puedo confirmar, señor Quiñoy, que esas reparaciones a las cuales se menciona en ese exhibit ya completaron?
Yes. You're talking Aguirre 2 on Palo Seco 4, right?
Palo Seco, unidad 4.
Yes, that unit is running. It's finished and running.
Y nuevamente, cualquiera que quiera responder, esa solicitud de reembolso, ya que se completó ese proyecto, ¿se hizo?
Yes.
Maria Sanchez here again. Yes, we submitted it. It's with PREPA. So we are in the works with them to make sure that we get the funds into our account to pay.
Mr. Hemplin, this is Commissioner Mateo. I am kind of confused. From what I'm hearing, what I am understanding is that with the DOE money, Genera will execute work, but is also using that money like reimbursing for work that was previously done, that was paid by the consumers. Is that correct?
Maria here again. The amounts that we were getting from the DOE, that's very well stated by Mr. Quiñoy, were basically done with PREPA. We worked with them to look at the projects that we had to maximize the funds, and they DOE allowed for us to go back on some of the projects that we had done, which in this case, Palo Seco 4 and Aguirre 2 were included. So yes, we were allowed to go back, and basically, which is why you now see a reduction in the rate that we are asking for this year.
So everything is reducted from the petition, or if you get money reimbursed, are you gonna use the money that is in the rate petition for something else?
No, that's what we agreed. Maria again, we had what we did was we did an analysis of what expenses we had to make sure that we deducted that from the 2026, which is the one that we are in now. And then there's some that were deducted from year 27 because, as we were saying, we're so late in the game right now that most of these projects will take longer than a year to complete.
Okay, and would you characterize the projects as capital investments or repairs, or is that a mix in the list?
Let me see. Whether we actually justify this as repairs or NME, it's a mix between the two of them, right? Some of them were forced outages that we just had to repair, and some of them are scheduled maintenance that the unit needs in order to continue performing reliably on the system.
Yeah, there is a fine line between maintenance and capital investments, and historically, PREPA has blurred the lines of those. Is there really a mix of repairs and capital investments in the money that you're using from DOE?
The money from the OE is maintenance and repairs on the units that we're using. The projects that we are the ones that we reduce from the enemy list is maintenance on the units.
Okay, thank you.
Mayagüez, Cambalache, etc.
También estoy un poco confundido. Vamos a Palo Seco.
¿Mm?
Si mal no recuerdo, Palo Seco estaba en los fondos federales. Había un allowance para reparar el Palo Seco. Ahora me están diciendo, yo presumo que FEMA no le dio el reembolso porque tengo que presumir eso. O estoy presumiendo mal.
If your question is if the rewind.
Huh?
So if your question was if the rewind was included on the federal funds, the answer is no. The rewind of Palo Seco 4 was not under federal funds. That was under a forced account that was used, forced outage.
Okay.
So it was not under the federal funds.
Cuando estamos hablando de Palo Seco, entonces 4, había unos fondos federales, se trabajó, todo se hizo, se está trabajando, tramitando con fondos federales. Y en addition to,
Correct.
ustedes hicieron un capital investment que fue que se lo va a reembolsar el DOE. ¿Entendí bien?
DOE is approved the reimbursement of the expenditures for the rewind of the generator. Correct.
Ese proyecto, ¿ustedes nos pidieron autorización?
I would need to verify because that project is over almost 2 years old and it was a forced outage that the unit went off. It was not a planned outage. The unit had a catastrophic failure on the generator and that's why it went through the forced account rather than an enemy project.
Aquí hay órdenes claras que ustedes tienen que venir aquí no matter what.
Ujú.
Cumplan con esas órdenes. Si ustedes tienen ese listado de los proyectos que sean, ya sea con fondos estatales, fondos federales, fondos de DOE, sometan esa lista al negocio de energía lo antes posible. Gracias.
Rafael, tengo una pregunta. Sí, Quinoy. ¿Es Quinoy o? Quinoy. Joaquín, ¿puedo decir Joaquín?
Sí.
Joaquín, usted acaba de mencionar que utilizó fondo del outage account para hacer unos proyectos. DOE, ¿fondea también el outage account si es que ustedes lo usan para otras cosas? O sea, que no va para un proyecto específico, sino que pueden fondear de ese outage account.
Objection to the characterization of the testimony. That was not part of his testimony. Can you please ask the question again?
I believe Joaquin mentioned that he used outage account funds to repair a project. Was that not what you said?
I believe that's not correct. What I said is the unit had a forced outage. During the repair, the funds were provided by DOE to finalize the payments of that repair. And that's why DOE submitted those monies.
Okay.
It's not that we started funding it thinking, no, it was a forced account, it was a forced outage, it was being performed as a forced outage. Additional funds were sought through DOE, they were received, and as that, it becomes a savings to the ratepayers.
Okay.
None of the repairs or work that was already done that is now being reimbursed by DOE was related to a forced outage? Because I am with Commissioner Torres. That's what you said.
Sorry, can you rephrase that?
What we understood from your testimony is that there were some events that were characterized or classified by Genera as the caused by a forced outage, and you had to work on units to get them back into service. And the DOE money was now eligible for that. But then I can only think that if there is a repair that is now reimbursed, but the work was already done and it was caused by a force outage, that you use money from the force outage account? Or are you using money from NME for force outages, or how is it working?
No,
It's like playing Tetris.
No,
It's kind of confusing.
the money that was spent by the OE was the remainder of the costs of those projects. It was not going back 2 years ago and ask for that funding. That's already funding that was spent. What we were seeking was funds to finalize the sections of the project that had not been funded.
So
Had
you
not been
started
paid
the
for.
project with a force outage account, and then it stopped, and you asked DOE for money to complete the project.
It didn't stop. Consequently, in this case, it was right on time. So the project never stopped. It continued and it was finalized. So in this case, it was a very good segue from going from one fund to the other.
So you decided that to use the money in a better way, you would stop getting the money from wherever you were getting it, which I don't understand where right now, because you have said so many things that is confusing, and then decided whatever is still pending for paying for this job, I'll ask DOE, and DOE said yes.
Objection to the characterization of his testimony. That was not what he testified. Can you please ask the question again?
I asked the question, and believe me, I've been trying to understand what he's saying, and he's all over the place. We need testimony that is clear, and we have been very flexible with the questions, and we have been very lenient, allowing all the witnesses from last week to today to go back to their questions, to answer. Even Mr. Hemplin sometimes clarifies in order for a witness to be sure what was asked. I'm asking whether if a job was pending, was in progress, you decided instead of using money from wherever account you were taking it. Because to Commissioner Mateo, right now it's not clear where the money was coming from, whether it was NME or was a force outage, because you have mentioned those many times. You decided not to use that account and get the money from DOE instead to complete the project. Is that correct?
Hello again, here, Maria. The issue with that particular project was that the funds in the reserve account were depleted. We did not have funds to complete that project.
Okay, so if you didn't get the money from DOE, was the project gonna be stopped?
In theory, if there was no funds, it should have been stopped.
Now we understand. So it was not a decision on deciding between two accounts. It was that you didn't have the money. You see how it's easier to understand if you explain yourself in a clearer manner?
Exactly how you said it. Thank you.
Setting aside the project's approval, yo creo que lo menos que merece nuestro país es transparencia en la utilización de fondos, ya sea de la tarifa, de fondos federales, ya sea de FEMA o de OI o cualquier otro fondo. Dicho eso, yo creo que es justo para todos saber de dónde se están pagando las cosas. Pero más que nada, asegurarle al país que no se está duplicando la utilización de fondos, porque es confuso. En la medida que haya distintas fuentes, empieza esto. Y entonces se da un mensaje equivocado. Y yo creo que es nuestra responsabilidad, la de todos, que el país esté claro y confiado que se están maximizando los fondos, que no es que estamos cogiendo de aquí y escondiendo allá, no. cogimos de aquí, se nos acabaron, cogimos de acá porque necesitamos completar este proyecto, porque necesitamos darle generación. Y yo creo que eso, con eso en mente, el ejercicio mínimo que deben hacer cada uno de ustedes es proveernos una lista a nosotros, que eventualmente será pública, aclarando eso. De eso se trata, no es de nada más. Yo creo que todos lo podemos lograr. El pueblo se merece esa claridad. El pueblo se merece saber que las personas que están a cargo de la transformación, sean entes gubernamentales o sean entes privados, están maximizando los fondos y la corrupción no se asoma ni a 100 pies de distancia. Y eso es lo que estamos pidiéndole a ustedes. ¿Bien? Gracias.
Y para completar el punto de la unidad 4 de Palo Seco que usted confirmó que fue completado, que confirmaron que las solicitudes de reembolso se hicieron. ¿En qué fecha se hicieron aproximadamente esas solicitudes de reembolso? Y en su experiencia con esta subvención, ¿cuál es el periodo de tiempo aproximado que se espera recibir o si ya se ha recibido?
Again, the grant is to PREPA. So we go through PREPA to do those grants. They're the ones who manage that discussion with the DOE directly. But to the best of our understanding, we're talking anywhere between 5 to 6 weeks for requesting and getting reimbursement on the funding that we have. So that's about the time that it's my understanding that it will take for us to get, unless there's an ROI with additional questions, etc. That's the expected time.
If I may interject, Maria here again. PREPA has been very diligent in implementing the process that we are supposed to be using to get those funds from the DOE. We are at least my expectation is that this week we're going to get the first payment. That's what they told us. So hopefully before these vistas end, we should be able to let you know if we got the money.
Muchas gracias. ¿Y en estos fondos hay alguna restricción sobre los tipos de proyectos que pueden ser financiados?
Can you ask the question again? Sorry.
¿Hay alguna restricción en el tipo de proyecto que puede ser financiado que le haya puesto a usted esta subvención?
The restrictions have to be based on terms and conditions from the Department of Energy. So all projects need to, in theory, agree with their expectations. So we submit the scope of work, they have to review it, approve it, and then the vendors need to comply with the requirements of the terms and conditions for the funding.
Me está hablando de unos términos y unas condiciones, pero antes para solicitar hay unas guías o unos parámetros o unos puntos específicos que se tienen que cumplir para que uno diga, bueno, este sí lo puedo someter por esta subvención, este no. Hay algunos parámetros establecidos.
If I may, Maria here again. Particularly, you have to make sure that it follows the requirements that the federal funds require. Like you need to make sure that all the contracts are in place with the caveats that the federal funds require. So that's at least that you have to make sure that it complies with that. As far as the detailed projects, since the funds are not, they were limited to an amount, certain projects, and I understand Mr. Quinoy, with PREPA, they did a brainstorming on making sure that we could maximize those funds because they were limited to, in our case, around 185 million.
Y esos proyectos, cuando ustedes los hacen, de los que le presentaron al negociado en su solicitud, hay una distinción entre lo que es los proyectos a nivel constrictivo y los proyectos a nivel óptimo. ¿Qué determinación, si alguna, o cómo ustedes están manejando los proyectos que sacaron de esa lista, ¿los están haciendo al nivel óptimo? ¿Los están haciendo al nivel constrictivo? ¿Cómo se determina eso?
Many of the numbers that we have are estimates in many cases because we don't have actual contracts. In some cases, we already knew the cost because it was a project that was already underway or had all the means necessary to continue. So we knew the exact number. In the ones that were estimated, those projects are currently right now in some instances under the procurement part to finalize contracts, bidding, etc. And from there, we'll have the final numbers. Our expectations or what we're trying to do is maximize that amount of money as best to our capability. In other words, we might be able to get more funds or reuse some of the funds for other projects. But it will be somewhere in between the optimal and the constraint based on the necessity and what we see. Again, there's other terms and conditions from these contracts that require, if you want to call it federal requirements that may increase some of the vendors' costs as if it was NME, which were local funds and doesn't have those restrictions. So some of those costs may increase the number on the totals. But it's being looked at to be as exact as possible during negotiations, formal bidding processes in order to reduce and do competition in order to reduce the cost for these projects.
Cambiando a el pareo estatal, en la petición original, Genera solicitó fondos millonarios a la tarifa para esto. Eso en la última revisión también fue eliminado. ¿Usted puede hablarnos un poco de qué sucedió y por qué esas peticiones también fueron eliminadas?
Hello again, Maria over here. We had asked for certain 10%, as you know, the cost share that the government is supposed to provide on every federal project is a 10%. The 90% comes from FEMA, 10% from the local government. So originally, we had requested the 10%, obviously through the rate, because we need to fund those projects that we're working on with local funds. We were able to obtain through CDBG money that 10%, of which a part of it was already reimbursed to us. And we expect, as we already received 71 million, we expect that in the next couple of months and years, as we go through these projects, to obtain the rest.
This is Commissioner Torres. What's the total amount that you requested for fiscal year 26 and 27 and 28?
I understand that the first year was 110. 60, the total? I would need to get that total for you. If you give us it was 67 for fiscal year 26, 34 for fiscal year 27, and 8.5 for 28.
That covered the total need of your cost share?
For now.
For now, okay.
And I say for now, as we had discussed previously with Mr. Hempling, we are hoping that any redirected funds that are being done at Washington, that if we get any more funds from those that are being redirected right now, we would be more than welcome to take them and reduce further the amounts that we are requesting from the taxpayer, from the ratepayer.
Do you know how much funds the CDBG ER1 have available for the cost share?
I surely don't have that information.
Does anyone in the panel know that? The amount? 500 million?
The ER1 fund, you said?
Yes, ER1.
Yeah,
I
500.
believe that's the only one that's allowed for cost share. That's my understanding. Okay, let's say, because I know, do you know Luma and Prepa are also requesting ER1 funds for the cost share?
I don't have that information.
Well, what I'm trying to go to is that there's a limited amount of funds for the ER1 program. What would Genera do if that gets depleted? Do you go back to the ratepayers?
I'm hoping not because we have been successful. Like I said, I'm not sure if Luma has been successful in getting reimbursed for the 10%, but we have proven to be successful. And if we move the projects the way that they are moving, which are all in line with the timelines that we have set, we should be able to get the 10% from the CDBG.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sánchez Bras, y una última pregunta por esa misma línea. ¿Qué cambió? Porque inicialmente se solicita esta partida en la petición tarifaria, pero Genera entonces obtiene esos fondos. ¿Esto es algo que usted identificó que existe solo para Genera o qué requerimientos se tuvo que cumplir para que se materializara este pareo?
Okay, as we stated before, when we started this process, it was almost a year ago. So the numbers that we put in our rate were based on our situation at the time. Time has passed, and as I very well explained to Mr. Hempling in another in a meeting that we had, basically we are adjusting our numbers as we get funds reimbursed, or if we can use other funds to make sure that we reduce that impact on the ratepayer. If we get more DOE funds like we talked about, we're going to come back to you and say, you know, I'm going to use DOE funds instead of paying for the $250 million in NME. We'll reduce further. So the same holds true with the 10%. We were able to procure that 10% from CDBG. We were successful in it. And so our expectation is, you know what? I'm going to keep using that instead of coming to the ratepayer and asking for that money.
Gracias. Una pregunta de seguimiento. Es que lo que quiero entender realmente es si cambió la dinámica para la solicitud, si cambiaron los requerimientos o es simplemente que usted Genera prosiguió con el proceso y tuvo éxito en el proceso. O sea, ¿qué dinámica se dio para poder obtener esos fondos?
Continued in that task. We talked, actually, the governor helped us in making sure that we could use those funds. There are some requisites that the CDBG has for us to be able to tap into them. Particularly, I understand it's 70% of the project needs to have been completed. So at that point in time, when we actually got the 10%, it was because we were already there. If we wouldn't have been there, which a year before we weren't there, we couldn't have asked for it. So that's why it's so important for us to modify our budgets as things happen and change. And that's why we came and asked for the reduction, because we didn't have $185 million when we started the rate case and started putting our numbers together. Now we do. And if some more money comes through, we'll come back and we'll do more further reductions. I mean, our goal in Genera is to make sure that the ratepayer pays the least amount of money on energy, and that includes me.
Thank you. No more questions.
Okay, excuse me, colleagues, can you hear me in the back? Yes, so let's take a look at where we are. We're going to take a break now. Don't go yet. So I've got 11:40 and we'll come back at 11:50. Sorry, we're at 10:40 and we'll come back at 10:55. Some brief comments. When we come back, we'll take cross-examination on the subject that we've been dealing with this morning, which is actually not technically on the agenda, but was considered an introductory set of concerns about the proper use of federal funds versus ratepayer funds. I may have a minority view on this topic, but I just want to share it by emphasizing three things. Number one, at any point in time over the next 3 years, there is going to be a mismatch between the dollars that are being collected from customers as a result of a budget decision and a rate decision versus what comes in. There is no possible way to synchronize with precision and accuracy the two things. And so there will always be either a need for funds that haven't been provided for in the rates or an excess of funds provided by the rates relative to what has come in. We have to find a way to deal with that mismatch. And that is, as far as I'm concerned, the main purpose of the federal funds panel. So, pardon me, the more thinking that can be done ahead of time, the better. Second, and here's where I might be saying something inconsistent with my client, is this. This is a rate case. What we have to do here is make reasonable projections about what the companies need to fund the system during a period of time when federal funds are uncertainty. I know that we have to get into sometimes are people doing the best job or are they not doing the best job? And I know that every witness here has argued that they are doing the best possible job. And I understand that sentiment, and I also understand the skepticism about it. There's only so much we can do about it in this proceeding, which is not a management audit proceeding. So what I'm hoping for, and again, I'm not trying to put constraints on the cross-examination, but the more that we can focus on what needs to go into rates and what do we do if there's that inevitable mismatch between what is in rates and what is now available, the closer we can get to everybody being happy. And I think that's all I wanted to share, and I hope I don't get fired for saying it. And with that, I'll see you all back at 5 to 11. 5 to 11. Thank you.
Are we off the record? We're off the record? We're off.
being late. We're going to turn now to cross-examination on this first topic. First, let me apologize for the lack of clarity. You didn't see on the agenda a item beginning on federal funds allocation, but that's what we just did. Other than that, we will follow the agenda, but for the exception that I said at the beginning, let me ask who has cross-examination? Mr. Brady, who else? Okay. Okay, well, we'll start about the material that we've covered so far. Sir? What do you mean by end users, sir? Who are you directing this to? Mr. Quinoy? When you use the word end users, did you mean electric customers? End users, when you use the phrase and speak, do your best to speak into that microphone, please.
Yeah.
And keep looking at that microphone.
Okay.
When you use the word end users, did you mean consumers?
It depends on what phrase did I use it. I don't recall using it.
Okay,
so-
he doesn't recall using it. Let me make a comment about the cross-examination before it starts. I have had a conversation with the commissioners, and this is not intended to restrict the cross-examination, but the commissioners essentially agree with me that when we get to the federal funds panel, which I think will be toward the end of December, we need to focus on how we deal with uncertainty. And that in these conversations, both this morning and with the cross-examination to come, there is only so much we can learn about who's going to get what funds on what project at what time and who's doing the best job. And the most important thing we need to do is to come up with a number that ratepayers will have to pay to cover costs that are not going to be covered with certainty through federal funds. That's all I have to add. In other words, I'm not a minority voice on this. Mr. Brady, glad to have you back. Please begin.
Thank you. For the record, Corey Brady, Weil, Gottschall, and Manges, representing National Public Finance Guarantee Corporation and speaking on behalf of the bondholder interveners. Good morning, Mr. Quinoy. Am I pronouncing that right?
Close enough, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I will say today throughout this proceeding, I have been regretting my decision to minor in German and wishing I had chosen Spanish instead. So do you recall earlier this morning when you were talking about projects either being on a list that was up on the screen or not on the list? And sorry,
Yes,
just inaudible. Thank you. And I believe you said that basically a project is on that list as an NME project unless it gets federally approved. Is that do you recall saying that?
I believe what I said was that's the list of NME projects, and we would take them off that list if they had approvals on federal funding.
And those were the red X projects that got taken off?
Those were the ones that had been approved that we removed, correct?
Okay, so I just want to understand the process here. Basically, back when you put the rate petition together, you had a list of NME projects.
Correct.
Thank you. And then many of those projects you were in the process of considering to submit for approval for some kind of federal funding, right?
Correct. In between the time that we submitted the list and until now, several things have come up as opportunities to get federal funds, and they were submitted and requested, and the ones that we removed were the ones that have been approved.
Okay, so it was kind of like a working list when you put it together.
It's the list of projects, and we removed the ones that got approved. Correct.
Okay, and you had, let's call it a pipeline of projects that you were seeking, for example, DOE funds from. Is that right?
Not a pipeline. The ones that were removed were the ones that we requested and got approved.
Yeah, no, I understand they did ultimately get approved. I'm just trying to get at the process of, you know, at what point in time is it going from being on the list as an NME project to being taken off the list because you've received a grant or funds?
The obligation of the money or the guarantee of the money is the trigger for us to remove from the list.
Okay,
If we know we have the funding, that's when it gets removed.
okay, so the ones that are still on the list, it's possible that that trigger will occur in the future and they'll fall off the list.
It depends if we submit additional requests. Yes,
Right, but as you mentioned earlier, you are planning to submit many of the
we
projects.
will review as opportunities arise to claim federal funds.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then I also want to understand the approval process a little bit better. At the very beginning of your testimony, do you recall saying effectively that if a project is not approved by PREPA, you don't execute federally funded projects?
The original list is what we call the consolidated list that PREPA has, and that's from the one that we actually guide ourselves to execute. It will need to be included in that list that they have for us to pursue it. And if you want further details, I'll probably have to deviate that to the federal funds panel where the experts on federal funding are, that they can explain you the precise process.
Okay, yeah, I'm not looking for details on particular projects. I'm just trying to understand kind of how it works at a high level. So you mentioned the consolidated project list. Can Genera add a project to that list and try to get PREPA's approval for it?
My understanding is that we can request for them to approve funding for additional projects if there is an availability and if they have the money and they approve. But again, that's something that we have to request to them.
Sir, I'm barely hearing you and I'm right next to you. It's like you're whispering. So when you look in a different direction, still keep the microphone in front of you. That's the key
My
thing.
apologies.
Don't turn your head away from it when you're speaking, okay?
Okay.
Okay, and the question I think is extremely clear, and I thought Mr. Scood already explained it to me, is that, first of all, you agreed that you are under a continuing obligation under your contract and under your obligations to this board, to this bureau, to continue to look at every item on that list and see if it is potentially eligible. And if you think it's potentially eligible, to go to PREPA and ask them to start the process. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you told me that you have a process by which you are doing that?
Correct.
All right. What's the name of the person who's in charge of that process?
We have a federal funds program leader, which is Jesus Cintron, and he should be on the federal funds panel.
Okay. Well, when he comes, make sure he's ready to explain the precise process by which he interacts with PREPA. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Brady.
Thank you. Do you recall some questions about whether the list that was up on the screen reflected a final determination of ineligibility for federal funds?
Vladimir again. Yeah, as of right now, yeah, that list is current. That list is current. Whatever we got from federal funding or any other grants were removed, right? So yes, we would go ahead and revisit that list again to see if there's anything else that maybe slipped or we, between the team thought it's not going to go, and hey, it's a long shot. Let's go ahead and try this. So yes, and if it does get approved, it would be removed from the rate.
Okay, so when you say it's current as of today,
yes,
you mean in terms of any actual approvals you've received, those have been taken off the list?
Yeah, everything that we submitted that was approved was already taken off the list.
Okay, but it's not the case that every single project on that list, Genera has said affirmatively, this project is ineligible. We're not going to seek federal funds.
If it's still on that list, it's because it's not eligible for funding.
A second, that's not what you told me. I asked you whether, if it was still on the list, you would still be looking at it, and you said that you would still be looking at it. Then I asked you, is there anything on the list that's hopeless? And I think you said some things were hopeless. And I think I'm with Mr. Brady right now, that I'm really not sure. So let's try it again, Mr. Squid. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound impatient.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no, no, it's
excited.
okay, it's all right.
All right, let's just go over this again. You tell me, what is your view of first of all, does this list include some projects that are hopeless in your view in terms of eligibility? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so some of them are hopeless. And some of them you think are not hopeless and deserve a second shot, but they weren't part of your first run through. Is that correct?
They weren't part of our first run through.
Okay. And is there any other way to categorize anything on this list other than hopeless or not hopeless? That's about it, isn't it?
Yeah. No. It's yeah.
Is there a third category?
No. That's
okay.
Not
You know what the problem is right now? Mr. Brady and I have absolutely no idea which ones of the many things on this list are hopeless or not hopeless. Okay. Absolutely no idea. So we have no way to know what percentage chance we should apply to try to put a number associated with this and make the ratepayers pay for it. That's our little problem right now.
That's correct.
Do you have any solutions to that problem?
No, we can get your list what we think it's not hopeless.
Well, that'll be a start. That'll be a start, but I'm right here mid-hearing. I'm not sure what we're going to do with it. Mr. Brady, back to you. I'm concerned that I asked you a very precise series of questions to get just to this point. I thought I walked out with an answer. Now I'm finding out that I didn't get the answers that I thought I was getting, and thanks to Mr. Brady, we're getting it cleared up now. Back to you, Mr. Brady.
So,
go ahead, sir. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Just to clarify myself. So, when the question is asked, as of today, right now, what we submitted was what we thought was everything that we could put for FEMA, for funds, DOE, FEMA, whatever grant we can achieve. We will go back and go visit the list because as of today it was hopeless. That's it. That's all we have. But say, let's do another shot. Let's go visit.
Well, if you say that, then nothing's hopeless. Everything's open. Is that your testimony now, or what? I'm asking.
No,
that's why I asked the word hope.
There's things that are hopeless, equipment that we need to buy and so forth to help out with reliability. That's not funded, right? But when I look at, listening to testimonies of, when the commissioner says, hey, outages, I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's try that. Let's get on the list of the work that we need, that we can do, that we, from the process that we have, says, hey, it ain't going to work. But hey, let's give it a shot. So we will give it a shot.
All right. This is what I'm going to ask you to do, and you tell me if this is reasonable, okay? And if not, give me something back that will be reasonable. What I want to ask you to do, and we'll agree on a timeline that works for everybody, and we can probably have till December 18th when we come back to the federal panel, if I make that procedural decision. I would like to, tell me if this is reasonable. I would like to ask you to go back over every list that is in the categories of the NFC, okay, the capital expenditure for 26 and 27 and 28, okay? And I want you to go through that list, and I want you to assign a score for potential, okay? And if you view it as no chance in hell, okay, that's going to be a 0, okay? And if you think it's a possibility, I mean, you come up with a concept, 0, 1, 2, and 3, okay? And you rank them.
Okay.
Does that sound like a reasonable request?
That's perfect.
Do you think that would be useful?
Yes, it will.
Do the commissioners think that would be useful? Okay. Does Mr. Brady think that would be useful?
It was what I was just about to ask.
All right, because we're not going to get it today, Mr. Brady, are we?
It doesn't seem like it.
Okay. And, I know I can stop yelling now that I've got your agreement.
No.
I'm just excited. I'm not mad.
All right. I don't think
New Jersey. Okay. You got it?
I'm from Queens myself, so it's all right.
You're where? Queens? Queens? Oh, well, welcome to Puerto Rico. All right. And we'll talk at the break, if people don't mind my going off the record, to come up with an agreement on the timeline. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, because what this is revealing to me is that there's an absence of precision internally at Genera about what to do. Now, I could be wrong about that, but my inference right now is that if you can't sit here under oath and be absolutely clear about what the darn status is of that column, that to me reflects an absence of precision. First thing I want to do is get Ms. Sanchez-Bras involved, because every time she opens her mouth, I get nothing but precision. So maybe you can help us out there, Ms. Sanchez-Bras, and we'll agree on this, and I'm done yelling. Back to you, Mr. Brady. Yes, ma'am, please.
This topic was not included as part of the generation cost topic. This is a federal funding topic And I just think it's unfair to put that on them. There's a specific panel for this, and the people on that panel will be ready to answer any questions regarding
Right.
federal funding.
Right. Well, first of all, I take responsibility for the surprise about the whole federal funds topic, and I'll do a better job of planning with my team on that. So you've got that one. I agree with that. But I'm going to ask you, if you do not object, to work out with me and my colleagues a timeline for preparing this information that will give us a better conversation during the federal funds panel. May I have that commitment?
You will have that commitment.
All right. I appreciate your participation and your cooperation very much. Mr. Brady.
Thank you. I think this is back to Mr. Quinoy now. Do you recall earlier this morning, this is again in reference to the list, saying that there were some projects that could qualify, but that were not submitted and would require PREB's approval and PREPA's approval, or something to that effect?
I believe in the ROIs, there was already an explanation on some of the projects that would require that approval. So it's already responded on the ROI. But ultimately, tomorrow we could have a new federal fund that could actually apply to some of these projects. And just like Mr. Hembren says, that's an uncertainty that we need to deal with, where we may be able to get additional funds allocated. But that's an uncertainty right now. And the uncertainty is having those projects approved.
Okay, so I'm not sure which ROI responses you're referencing, so maybe you could help me out here. Are these projects that are not on the list because they have not yet obtained approval? Is that what you were talking about?
There's a couple of projects on the list that were responded. For example, Cambalache 1, which is something that the PREP still needs to approve in order if it's going. Two and a half years and be performed.
Okay, so it's a long-term project, you're saying?
It's reducing it's a long-term because of the approvals. It's already a medium time project as it is. Getting all the approvals and everything will make it longer as well.
Could you explain what the project is? I'm sorry, I'm not actually familiar with it.
Cambalache 1 is a unit that actually it's on our testimonies and also in the discussion with or the rebuttal of Mr. Justo Gonzalez testimony. So you could probably get more information on that one. But from my recollection, it's a unit that actually had failed several years ago. So right now, rehabilitating this unit would bring back almost 80 megawatts into the system, in a system that is a little bit frail right now with not enough reserves. It's a project that could, in the medium term, can restore, say, 80 megawatts.
Okay, so it's proposing to restore an out-of-service unit, basically.
Correct. Rehabilitate a unit that is out.
Okay. Now, in your and others' testimony today, there have been a number of references to what's been called a forced outage account or a forced account. Do you recall that?
Yes.
What is that account? And is it known by any other name?
I believe Ms. Sanchez can probably explain that a little bit better to you as he's from finance.
Hello, Maria here again. There is within Aroma a a reserve account that is used for forced outages and for any capital spare parts that we may need. That's the account that he was mentioning.
Is that different from the emergency maintenance reserve account, or are they the same thing?
Regarding that emergency, we don't have an emergency account, only the reserve account.
Okay, so Genera has one reserve account, and that's what you're calling the forced outage account.
That is correct. It's called forced outage because it's one of the uses that you can use it for.
To be very clear, do you happen, is that the precise language that's in the OMA, the forced account? What's the precise language?
Reserve account.
Sorry?
Account.
There was only one reserve account in your OMA, and that's what it is.
That is correct.
And it's for forced outages and
certain critical spare parts.
Spare parts that are needed because of a forced outage, or just spare parts regardless of whether they're connected to a forced outage?
Regardless of whether they're connected.
So it's kind of a mix of an emergency account and a non-emergency account.
You could call it that, sir.
Well, that's what you're calling it.
That's right.
Okay.
The name of the account in the OMA is reserve.
Reserve account.
That's
It doesn't
right.
have an adjective to it, unlike the T&D OMA.
Yeah, it's different from T&D.
Mr. Brady, thank you.
Thank you. And
No, well, not right now. Mr. Brady is cross-examining.
so just so we're all on the same, just so we're all on the same page, the last agenda item in the generation panel is titled Need for and Use of OMA's Generation Maintenance Reserve Account. Is that another name for what we've just been talking about?
No, the generation maintenance account, the GMR, and it's Maria here again. It's a term that was actually created by the PREP for maintenance within the system.
Is that are you referencing the account from the provisional rate order in July? Because my understanding is that was a different account.
I'm not sure which one you're referring. If it's the generation maintenance reserve, which is what we have been using thus far, that's the one I'm referring to.
Have you reviewed the Energy Bureau's provisional rate order from the end of July?
I have, but not on the top of my head. But yes, I believe in that order, the name is GMR. That's what they use, the Generation Maintenance Reserve.
I could be wrong, but my understanding was the Energy Bureau created a shared reserve account, emergency reserve account across the operators, and they would be able to access it.
I apologize, I don't have the answer for you on that one, but we could probably look it up.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the order now, and it's called the Outage Event Reserve Account. It's referenced on page 11. No, I'm sorry, that's a different one. I'm sorry, page 37 of the provisional rate order, the emergency reserve account.
I'm not object to this line of question. It's beyond the scope of the elicited testimony. There is a panel for the reserve account discussion. I think any questions directed to that account should be left to that panel.
Right. Well, it's a fair point on both Mr. Brady's part and Ms. Vasquez's account. Here's what I would like to do to save time. Okay, I'm actually personally confused myself because there's three things going on at once. There's the OMA account that Ms. Sanchez-Bras calls the reserve account. There's the emergency reserve account that the provisional rate order created. And then there was this thing listed at the end of the agenda that is causing me some stomach pain right now because I personally am ignorant of what it refers to. And I would rather get to the lunch break and figure out what that's about so that I know what's going on, Mr. Brady. And then I'm very interested in then deciding whether we pursue it today or whether we pursue it on another day, like the EMR panel or like the federal funds panel. So I'm going to ask for your permission, Mr. Brady, that we reserve this thing and we'll get it figured out. Is that okay with you?
That would be great because I'm similarly confused. I heard Ms. Pross say there was one account and it seems like we're talking about 3 different accounts at this point.
Right,
So
and that's actually one of the topics to address in the EMR panel is whether we have enough or too many accounts and whether there's sufficient accountability for each of these accounts, et cetera. The provisional rate order was by definition provisional, and we want to try to get to a permanent solution where everybody knows what's up. Mr. Brady.
okay, yes. And this may be back to you, Mr. Kinoy. I believe you referenced that we'll call it the forced reserve or forced outage reserve account. I think that was your word. You said it was depleted. Do you recall that?
Actually, if I may,
Oh, was that-
Maria here,
Yeah.
it was me who said that it was depleted.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
That means that there are no funds in that account
And how did it become depleted?
because we used it in forced outage account and forced outage projects.
And what normally would happen when you use up the reserve account?
For our OMA, we're supposed to request a reimbursement. We need to get it reinstated as soon as we use it. We communicate that we've had to use it for forced outage, and it's supposed to be reimbursed by PREPA.
So you submit a request to PREPA.
That is correct.
Have you done that?
Yes, I have. Every single time we've asked, we've used it.
And it's still depleted as of today?
That is correct.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Ramos. Was that account funded this fiscal year? At the beginning of this fiscal year?
The account only was funded when we started. This is Maria again.
The beginning of this fiscal year?
No,
Oh, when
we
Genera
started
started,
in 2023. That is correct. That was the
And
only
ever-
time
once it was depleted and it was never
it
funded?
was never funded.
Okay.
Thank you.
One other thing, did Genera ask in this rate petition to fund that account?
Maria here again. We had originally included it into our petition, but we took it out when we understood that that there was going to be like an emergency fund per se that was going to be, I believe it was going to be worked at the PREP level. So we decided to take it out of the 2026 rate.
So on your revised petition, it was taken out.
We took it out.
Thank
That's
you.
correct. Thanks.
That was all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brady. We're now going to move. Was there somebody else who needed to cross?
Yes.
What is the question, sir? What is the question, sir?
I asked the panelists.
I'm asking you to ask the question, sir.
Okay. I thought you said, what is the question?
Well, that's what I want to hear. Go ahead.
Victor Gonzalez. In your planning, the planning of Genera expenses, you were not aware of these 185 million DOE funds were going to be coming your way. Is that correct?
If I may, Maria here again. That is correct. When we started this process, those 185 million had not been granted.
Because those $185 million were not part of a DOE program where you had made up an
The DOE funds were received by the governor as her efforts working with Washington to make sure that those funds that were redistributed, that were not going to be used for other purposes, would be used where we need it most, which is generation.
And will it be fair to say that they were redistributed from renewable energy projects that were on the pipeline?
Well, I cannot answer that question, sir. You would have to ask DOE.
So what I'm saying is now for the years 27 and 28, the fact that these funds were just a redistribution for political reasons, because the governor went to
Objection,
Washington.
objection to this line of questioning is beyond the testimony and it is argumentative as well.
Sustained. What is the next question?
Do you think you are going to be as lucky in 2027 or 2028 with DOE funds as you were in 2026?
That's a fair question. What's the answer?
Maria here again. We are hopeful that yes, that we will be getting that lucky.
Next question.
And because this was a matter of luck, that's why you were not able to tell ahead of time this bureau that these projects were not going to be needing ratepayers funds.
It's
Well,
go ahead.
if I may, Maria here again. We were in time. We're here. We did the reductions on the budget, so we are on time.
But the chairman mentioned that maybe some of these things or some of these projects had not been, the bureau had not been asked permission to do them.
Right. We already covered that with the chairman. What's the next question?
I have no more questions.
Thank you, sir. Give me 1 second, please. Apologies for the interruption. Just a slight change in plans. Mr. Sosa will be asking his questions in English now. Of course, the witnesses should answer in whatever language they prefer. And we'll now continue on the agenda with the first topic that's listed, which is temporary generation solutions. Are we all good? Okay, and my plan is to go to about 12:30 like we normally do. Everybody okay with that? And then we'll see where we are. Okay? Thank you very much for your patience today.
All right, good morning, everyone, again. Thank you very much. Mr. Kinoy, how would you define generation adequacy, resource adequacy? Or Mr. Scott, whomever prefers.
This is Vladimir again. Adequacy, we're still in a need for generation. Even though we're able to rehabilitate, 1,200 megawatts this year, we still in a need due to the current status.
He's asking you to define adequacy as you view the term.
No, it's not adequate.
He's asking you to define the word.
Oh, the definition of adequacy.
Yeah. In terms of when you use the word adequacy, what do you mean? Do you mean no outages whatsoever for 30 years? What do you mean?
Adequacy for me is units that are reliable. Coming from where I come from, units have a reliability of 1% E4. Right, that's adequate. Right, coming to Puerto Rico, when you have 44% E4, that's not adequate for the people. Right, so there's no reliability in that. All right, so adequacy is, if I have to define adequacy here is, hey, I need to get it from 44. If I could get it to half of that, we could probably make it. Right, so adequacy for me is, I look at I'm at two extremes. I was all the way at the far left, I'm all the way at the far right now. So when I look at adequacy, I want units to be reliable, to be running all the time. If they do come off, I have sufficient generation not to cause a blackout. That's adequacy for me.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. And how would you characterize the current situation of adequacy in Puerto Rico?
Oh, it's inadequate.
Okay.
In
what sense?
In a sense of being inadequate is when you are minimally meeting the reserve margin that's required. We could be at a margin of 400 megawatts reserve, and then we have a leak, and the leak has us off for a week, and then now we may have some load shed. So adequacy for us is ensuring that we have the proper budget as the operator of the units to say, hey, look, we need to do this because of X and Y reason, and we can get the funding for it, right? So adequacy, being inadequate is not is not having units that are reliable. Okay. I don't know if that answers your question.
See, what's fascinating about your answer is you started by referring to the acronym EFOR, correct?
E4.
Yeah, and what is that? Just for the record, what is that word? What are those words? What does it stand for?
Oh, equivalent force outage rate.
Okay, and you have you say you come from Queens, and you have an experience of an E4, roughly about what?
Well, that's more Florida and Queens. I don't know kind
of. Oh, you're not in
well,
Queens anymore. You're in Florida.
I'm
Okay.
in Florida. I was originally from Queens, but in Florida, I used to work for a small company, Florida Power and Light, and their E4 rate is for all the units. They have a goal of 1. I came from my unit. I was able to reduce it to 0.19 for the
Okay.
year. So I'm sorry. So getting to E4 means that you're looking at the hours the units are online, and how many times the hours they come off, and the D rate, and you calculate that based off of the availability, the service hours that are there, and that gives you a number. It tells you how your plants are performing. The idea is to have an E4 of a low number. So if I have a target of 15, I want to be anything less than that. Anything that's above that means my units are not reliable. In the case where I come from, we have a target of 1. Anything above 1 is not acceptable. Acceptable for everywhere else in the world, but not for that company. So we're trying to transition to that type of excellence when it comes to our plants.
Right. So what I find interesting is that with the thousands of pages that are in the record right now, and the hundreds of pages in the pre-filed testimony from Genera, who is in charge of generation, I look for an aspiration for E4 in terms of a specific number for fiscal year 26, 27, 28, maybe 10 years from now. This is really what Commissioner Torres has been asking about. What are we trying to get to at what time? And what should the customers be paying for at what point in time? So for purposes of our 3 years in this rate case, do you have a particular number associated with E4 or not? Because I didn't find it in the testimony.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what he's asking about.
Yeah. So for me, based off where we currently were, right, in 3 years, we were at 44% when we started. We ended our last fiscal year at 26%. So hopefully by the end of 2028, we would be roughly around 16%. E4.
And so you would say that,
yeah.
Sorry?
No, E4, I'm sorry.
The dollars that you're asking from the ratepayers for 26, 27, 28 are associated with the E4 that you just stated. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. That's what we're trying to get, is a connection between dollars and outcome, so that the commission can tell the public that there's a transition that they're paying for. Do you understand? So now I have a number associated with the number.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. And based on that projection, which specific projects are you proposing to achieve this?
Well, it's Vladimir again. It's a lot of projects. It's pretty much what we have currently on our list that we think we have to get to one point, then to get to the next, right? So, and I give you the best example is Coastal Sewer. We came in, Coastal Sewer wasn't operating. We did some major maintenance to it back in 2023. We got it up to this 200 some odd megawatts where it were. We'd had another outage where we found out why we were failing. We got the critical components in. Like I said, we took the baton and we ran with it. We had to figure it out as we went. We still had the same employees that work, so the culture was different. We had to change the mindset and how we looked at things. Okay, so in order for us to get where we want to go, now we have a certain direction, right? We have to fix the things that we know that are eating our lunch, right? We fix those items. We make some of our repairs. Once we get to that point, okay, we got the unit where it needs to be. Okay, it hasn't been here for a very long time. Now we got to see what else is broke. I only can see where I'm at. I know where I got to go. But in order for me to get to that point, there's that need to be done for me to at least get there.
So let's turn to Exhibit 83, please.
May I, Scott? Yes. You said that where you come from, your goal was 1.
Yeah.
And did you achieve to get under 1?
Oh, yeah.
On time, 0.9. No, that's that.
0.19.
Yeah. And then you say that when you came to Puerto Rico, you in 40, and then you reduced that to 25.
That's right.
And what is your goal? What is your goal here in Puerto Rico?
my goal, as long as we have a contract, that's a 10-year goal. Our goal is to go as low as we can.
Yeah. But what is your goal? Because
Oh, my goal is
Rico, the fleet is old. Okay, I
I'm-
just want to hear what is your goal.
so okay. Our whole purpose was to decommission these units.
Mhm.
We have to get them to a place where we could at least run. So when new generation comes in, we can get it to that point. I
Sure.
don't want to be a one because that's just wasting money.
Yeah.
Right? This is wasting money. If I can get it down to that 17, 18%, I know I'm a little bit more reliable and I could hold off until the new generation comes in.
Thank
So-
you very much.
so getting-
18. That's all I want to hear.
Getting to one is
No.
it's
Impossible.
no, it's possible. It just costs a lot of money, right? So it's not worth it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So we're looking at Exhibit 83, the sir rebuttal testimony in response to expert report of Justo Gonzalez. Please let me know if you have
Yes,
back.
we're seeing it.
You're able to turn to page 9. You mentioned that presently 14 are installed, of which 10 are operational. Genera needs to repair the remaining 4 units, which represent 100 megawatts of generation capacity. Can you walk us through what the expected timeline and cost for restoring these 4 non-operational TM 2500 units?
Right now, for the two of them are in Palo Seco. Currently, they're estimated at, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, about $3.5 million for each of those. Timeline is around, I think it was 8 weeks on one and 16 weeks on the other. At San Juan, we have the TM number 1 that's out right now for a failure that it had. That one has an estimated return date of, I want to say, 4 weeks, maybe sometime mid-December. And for San Juan 9, that one has a little bit more extensive problems, and we're actually still pending a quote for that one.
When were these units acquired?
When were they acquired?
Yep.
I know they weren't acquired during our time. They were, from my understanding, they were brought in after, if I'm mistaken, Maria. Genera got the units mid last year, where they turned over to us from where they were before. So other than that, I don't know the exact date of when the machines came on.
Okay. They were non-operational when you came in?
They were operational. All the units are operational. Problem is, as you use the units, they fail, right? So we have to maintain them, right? These TMs are real particular. They're dual fuel units and they operate on natural gas and they operate on diesel. When we have to operate on diesel, they removes the life from the units. So, when we base our budgets and so forth, we base it off of the hours that they run. So the units fail. Every unit fails.
Are these diesel, gas?
These are gas, primarily primarily natural gas. Backup fuel is diesel.
On that same page, Genera disagrees that the TM 2500 units should substitute San Juan units 8 and 8. 8 and 10, I apologize. Can you provide the comparative analysis of the generation costs, the reliability, and the emissions between both alternatives?
If you're referring to this, San Juan 8 and 10 and the substitution, running on natural gas is a lot more environmentally friendly than running with the 8 and 10 on diesel. The purpose of not substituting is to reinstall those about 100 megawatts each. 8 and 10 are about 100 megawatts each. So the substitution, would I wouldn't want to substitute those units just for those. If we could repair the 8 and 10, we could have an additional 200 megawatts that we still have on the island, and the cost is, I don't want to say it's minimal, but it's cheaper than to put brand new units in currently.
When you say it's cheaper, what cost analysis are you using to make that determination?
I want to say the average is 300 a megawatt.
I guess the answer to your question, or to what they're trying to say, is 8 and 10 is 200 megawatts. Right now, the current reserve is low. So the reason of just trading LMs or TMs 2500s for those 200 megawatts, the net effect is they're running right now, and we're still low on reserve. You could not repair 8 and 10. Our position is those are 200 additional megawatts that we could add to the system so that we could have additional megawatts, so that we could have a healthier reserve for the operation. That's the reasoning behind it. Keeping DTMs, we're all agreeing that it's necessary. It's just that saying to substitute them by 2 additional 100 megawatts will still keep us at a lower reserve margin than what we need.
Okay, so I want to get a better understanding, because I'm hearing from Scott that this is a matter of cost benefit analysis, and from Mr. Quinoy, I'm hearing that it's more about generation adequacy concerns. Which one is it, or how do you consolidate both?
They're pretty much both in line. It's cost benefit because units are there, and adequacy is because we have to. We will have an additional 200 megawatts of generation.
So in terms of cost, can you walk me to the cost of running the San Juan 8 and 10 versus running those TM 2500s?
The cost, those San Juan 8 and 10 are currently running on bunker C, right? Which is our, no, well, if they run, they would run on bunker. Those are bunker C units, okay? The cost of bunker C units is about, I think I have here, $12 MMBTU versus $10 on gas, give or take, depending on the market, right? So I'm just giving you more or less a rough average. So it is a little cheaper to run them on it's not cheaper to run them on bunker, right? It's not cheaper to run them on bunker, but having the units there available, and all we have to do is repair them, it's cheaper than waiting 2 or 3 years for new units to come in. So we just have a faster turnaround.
And you mentioned if they're running, are they running currently?
Currently, right now, they're not running.
They're not running. And what's the reason why they're not running? And are you contemplating the cost of maintenance and getting them up to speed?
Yes. Currently they're not running because when those units were turned in, they were turned in not running. So we didn't have them in our budget to do any work to them. We want to get them to run. If we feel it may be, prudent to say, okay, hey, I want these units to run, let's see if we could get budget for them. If they want to give us budget for the units, then that's fine, right? Then we'll just keep them as is, right? But eliminate, when you say to substitute them, hey, no, just keep get these 2 units in San Juan, which is about 50 megawatts versus 2 units that are 200 megawatts. There's a big difference in that.
This is Commissioner Torres. I just want to say I'm somewhat lost in this conversation we're having. What's the purpose? Well, I know we're talking about the 14 TM units, and we're talking about 8 and 10. What are we trying to get to? So at least I could understand what I'm supposed to be thinking about and getting to make my decision, and maybe the public could understand as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. If I may ask, Engineer Justo Gonzalez, this is in a direct response to a recommendation by an expert report submitted by Engineer Justo Gonzalez.
And I want to hear also money. I want to hear Genera have suggested so much for the rate case revenue requirement, and who still says it should be 100 million less if we don't do this and that. Because I'm not hearing money in these cross examinations of the revenue requirement. At least I need to hear who recommends what and how much should we reduce or increase or keep. I'm hearing a lot of technical things. At least I need to hear money amounts, if that could help us. Thank you. That's my recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ingeniero Justo González, escuchando el testimonio y escuchando al comisionado sobre las implicaciones de costo en su recomendación, usted, habiendo escuchado el testimonio del señor Scoot y el señor Quiñoy, ¿puede explicar si ha cambiado su recomendación al negociado de energía en su informe de las unidades San Juan 8 y 10 reemplazadas por el TM 2500 y qué implicaciones tienen en la suficiencia de la generación y los costos?
Muy buenos días a todos. Buenos días a todos. Justo González, en calidad de récord, ¿verdad? Para récord y en calidad de perito.
Habla más duro hacia el micrófono para que se escuche. Gracias.
Sí, Justo González, en calidad de perito para el negociado de energía. Las unidades de San Juan 7 a 10, para hacer, ¿verdad?, un histórico de ellas, son unidades que fueron comisionadas en el año 62, 63, 1962, 1963, 64 y 65. Son unidades, ¿verdad?, de una tecnología de los años, básicamente 50, 60, en términos de diseño e instalación. Ya su vida útil ya sobrepasó los límites de utilización. Al presente se están utilizando las unidades 7 y 9. La unidad 7, que fue reparada, utilizó el rotor del generador de la unidad número 10. Se movió, ¿verdad?, para utilizarse porque tuvo una avería en el generador. ¿Okay? Entonces, tan pronto se puso en servicio, pasaron unos meses y tuvo una avería en la turbina. Son unidades que ya van consumiendo mucho dinero. La petición que Genera es de repararlas y convertirlas a gas natural.
¿Para la 8 y la 10 o la 7 y la...?
Las menciona las 4.
Las 4.
Inclusive las unidades 8 y 10 llevan muchos años fuera de servicio y ya hay algunos componentes que han caído en obsolescencia.
Que las 7 y las 9 que son en operación, ¿qué capacidad tienen?
Son unidades de 100 megavatios. La 9 está en servicio, la 7 está en reparación actualmente. Los costos que ha presentado Genera, ¿verdad?, ha sido multianual y totalizan 125 millones de dólares para las reparaciones y conversiones.
De las 4.
De las 4. Y quiero mencionar, ¿verdad?, algo que traje en el reporte. Hay varias condiciones que hay que ver aquí en términos técnicos y voy a tratar de explicarlo de la forma más sencilla posible.
Sí, bien sencillo.
Sí. Es que fueron diseñadas para utilizar tar pitch, que es lo que se conoce como brea, y bunker C. Son máquinas, ¿verdad?, que no para utilizar gas natural, aunque se han hecho conversiones como la de fue las unidades 5 y 6 de Costa Sur. Siempre existe un derating en eso, y derating es una pérdida de capacidad de las unidades por la característica de la combustión. Cuando estamos hablando de productos derivados del petróleo y especialmente los destilados pesados, como es el destilado número 6, que es el bunker C, el tipo de combustión es una combustión que es bien irradiante. Hay 3 tipos de poder, no transformar, me refiero, tres tipos de nosotros poder llevar a cabo o pasar el calor de un lugar a otro. Uno es por conducción, otro es radiación. Es un poco técnico, pero es la base para explicarlo. Y el otro es convección. Ok, radiación es por la irradiación de esa bola de fuego. Es como cuando uno abre una de las portezuelas, es como mirar al sol. Es bien irradiante. Y el diseño del water wall, que es las paredes de tubo, que es lo que hace la transformación de agua a vapor, es aprovechando esa irradiación. Y está diseñada para un balance. Luego, cuando llega el superheater, tiene parte ya de que se conoce como convección, que es el arrastre de la temperatura por los gases. Estoy hablando que son características completamente diferentes. ¿Ok? Llevarlo a gas natural, el tipo de quema principalmente ya no es irradiación. Usted puede mirar la flama, es una flama azul, opaca. Ya las paredes de tubo no van a aprovechar esa irradiación para hacer la transformación de agua a vapor. ¿Quién va a aprovechar eso? Pues va a llevar todos los gases, es más convectivo. Los gases van a arrastrar la temperatura. Cuando llega al área superheater, tiende a sobrepasar las temperaturas permitidas por el superheater. Y por lo tanto obliga a que tengan que bajarse en capacidad. Además de que no va a tener la absorción del calor para hacer la transformación de vapor en las paredes de tubo. Eso lleva a una pérdida de capacidad sustancial de las unidades.
Y eso quiere decir que ¿cuánto está pidiendo Genera en su revenue requirement para convertir esa unidad de 7, 8, 9, 10 a gas natural?
Todo aparece 125 millones, reparación y la transformación en el proceso multianual que ellos solicitaron, 2026,
La recomendación es que no se apruebe.
Bueno, que no se apruebe las conversiones, ¿verdad? Y yo no recomiendo tampoco restablecer las unidades e invertir en las unidades 8 y 10, por las condiciones en que se encuentran.
Si se convertirán estas plantas, ¿tardaría más en tener alguna avería?
Si se convierten, van a tener muchas averías.
No, sabemos que va a tener, pero...
Y si se arregla la unidad 8 y 10, que debe estar ahora mismo, ¿verdad? Yo fui allí, vamos a decir, no voy a decir debe estar, yo fui allí. Yo conozco por mi experiencia que yo fui director de generación en la Autoridad de Energía Eléctrica. En el pasado fui director de planificación, que era los que manejábamos en aquel entonces las mejoras capitales. Conozco la trayectoria de esas unidades. Se invertían mucho en ellas y tenían muchas fallas, muchas roturas. ¿Qué sucede? Unidades que llevan muchos años, más de 5 años fuera de operación y no están dentro de un proceso de mantenimiento para tenerlas stand-by. Lo que podemos esperar fallas, ahí hay mucha corrosión en esas unidades. El verlas no tiene que ser un experto para verlas físicamente y darse cuenta que son máquinas que ya están fuera de uso.
Sí, pero el tiempo en que ocurriría una falla, me imagino que al separarla y convertirla se extendería y entonces nos permitiría a nosotros tener algún tiempo para tener más generación.
Okay. Vamos a definir lo que sería la reparación.
I'm sorry to interject. The translator is like 2 questions behind. If we could maybe just slow the exchange down a little bit so she can catch up.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Brady. Thank you. I should have been more on the ball about that. Yes, Mr. Justo Gonzalez, always wait about 3 or 4 or 5 seconds after the end of a question before answering, and commissioners, please wait about 3 or 4 seconds from the end of Mr. Gonzalez's answer before asking the next question. And please, commissioners, continue.
Is it better for the commissioners to speak in English and then the responses in Spanish? Is that better for everyone? Ok, ¿prefiere la pregunta en español o no hay problema que se haga en inglés?
Estoy un poco sordo.
Ok,
Por
la
mi
hago en
experiencia de
español.
trabajo y preferiría español.
Ok, no hay problema. Entonces, tenemos la unidad 7 que está en operación y la 9 que está en operación. Genera está pidiendo dinero en este revenue requirement para esas 2 unidades.
Sí, discúlpenme que me emociono y hablo rápido. No, realmente Están pidiendo para las 4 unidades.
Ok, pero quiero que me diga esas 2 unidades nada más. Que tienen, la 7 tiene 100 megavatios y la 9 tiene 100 megavatios. ¿Qué dinero está pidiendo Genera para las 7?
No está definido el breakdown de cómo se va a distribuir los fondos. Solamente menciona, ¿verdad?, las 4 unidades y a lo largo de los años cómo se va a distribuir en términos de años, pero no descifra, ¿verdad?, qué unidad, si es tantos millones para la 7 o tanto para la 9. No.
O sea, que están pidiendo 125 millones solamente para la conversión de 7, 8, 9 y 10. Eso es lo que está pidiendo Genera en este Revenue Requirement.
Señor Quiñoy, si tiene las cifras y puede aclarar el récord de las cuantías que está solicitando Genera para estas plantas.
Para estar en récord, Joaquín Quiñoy, vicepresidente de Ingeniería, Construcción y Mantenimiento de Genera. En cuanto a su pregunta, comisionado, la unidad 7 está en reparación bajo fondo federal. La unidad 9 fue aprobada en los fondos del DOE, ya estaba scheduled para mantenimiento este año y los fondos fueron aprobados para federal. Así que los 125 millones son para arreglos más allá que no están dentro de las mayores que están cubiertas en estas 2 unidades y enfocadas en la 8 y la 10 y la conversión a gas para todas las 4 unidades.
Entonces entiendo que la recomendación de Justo es decir que no se gaste esos 125 millones, que no se conviertan en gas natural y que no se mejore la 8 y la 10 porque esas unidades no sirven. Deberían de estar en el plan de decomisar. Esa es su recomendación, ingeniero González.
Correcto. Lo que estoy, ¿verdad?, recomendando es que las unidades 8 y 10 no se invierta en ellas debido a la condición en que se encuentran y que no van a ser confiables para el sistema. Y que las unidades 7 y 9 no se conviertan a gas natural.
Ok. No, esas son las preguntas que tengo para ese proyecto en específico y con una cuantía específica de dinero. Genera pide 125 millones y el consultor dice que no se debe dar los 125 millones. Eso es todo. Pero que Genera quiera explicar por qué se quiera hacer la 8 y la 10. Y quiero acordar que el contrato de Genera, el propósito que Genera vino aquí era para decomisar las unidades, no era para seguir poniendo unidades, o sea, es para decomisar.
Just to answer the last question, make sure I understood it. I know, yes, our purpose is to decommission the units. If we start decommissioning units, we won't have generation. We're just looking to see where can we add more generations faster. Right? So putting 8 and putting 8 and 10 back online, investing the money to put those units back online would at least guarantee us an extra 200 megawatts. I understand the explanation he did on the technical, the heat and the transfers and so forth, but this technology nowadays, when tubes are changed, they accommodate for those type of heat transfers, right? So, we could probably achieve the same output as we would how it was originally designed, because I've seen units be converted, and Coastal Sewer is one of them. it's at 410 megawatts, and that unit runs on natural gas, and that was its nameplate rated capacity. Okay, so it's, as the operator, we could only tell you what we want to do, right? Well, we think it's benefit. You know, if it wasn't a cost benefit, we probably won't even recommend it. But if the decision is were to be made, hey, don't do it, I'm okay with that. But when it comes to, hey, why don't we have more generation? What are we doing for more generation? It has to be clear to say, we were told we're not going to update those units. I'm okay with not updating them. Trust me, I'm fine. But I want to find as much generation as possible. Even if I don't get 200 megawatts out of them, I get 150. I get 150 now that I could last until we get some new renewable energy that's coming in, right?
But what time would that buy us?
As if we were to due to the rate case, it's pushed us out about a year. So we need to start getting the material. We have to order the tools. We have to order whatever we need to get in. I want to say it's ending 28, starting the following on year 4. No, not year 4. This is year 1 of this rate case. Year 1, we have half of this year to get everything that we need. Wait for lead times to come in, and we could do work with what we currently have, and then we'll, it's estimated, right? It's not a science, but it should be for the total conversion, what, 2.5, 3 years? 2.5 years? Yeah, 2.5. That's what we estimate. Yeah, 2.5, 3 years to make the conversion. If we would have started back in July. So if we would have started at the beginning of this fiscal year, so it takes time. It takes time to convert the units.
So, given your definition of adequacy that you talked about a half hour ago, what would be the consequences of following Mr. Justo Gonzalez's recommendation? Would there be consequences to adequacy?
Yeah, there'll be consequences because it's 200 megawatts we'll have to try to find elsewhere.
Well, what does that mean, try to find? So we're talking about spending $125 million to get what? Or if we don't spend $125 million, we're going to lose what?
If we don't get $125 million, we would have to look at where we currently are with our current use to see if we could get them out of whatever jams we have, right? So the 200 megawatts will guarantee me, hey, by year 3 of this case, I would have an additional 200 megawatts online. Right?
Are you saying that as we sit here, you don't have an alternative to the 200 megawatts if the commission adopts Mr. Justo Gonzalez's recommendation? You don't have an alternative? You have to think of one?
Outside of what we're currently doing right now with our batteries and our PQ unit replacements, there's no other alternative except for looking at the current units that we currently have and see what else we can do to get them up to speed.
I'm not getting a very good sense. I understand your answer. I'm not getting a very good sense of whether the consequences to adopting Mr. Justo Gonzalez's recommendation are negative for the customers or positive for the customers. I mean, it's a benefit cost decision. So is there a detriment to adequacy if the Bureau adopts his recommendation, a detriment to adequacy or not? You seem to be uncertain or indifferent.
Yeah, I'm certain of the adequacy when it comes to the generation.
Sorry?
I'm certain on the adequacy when it comes to the generation we achieve from having those units. As for the ratepayer, I think it's, getting the units and converting them to natural gas. It is a benefit for the ratepayer in the long term when it comes to the usage of the fuel that we use, which is a lot cleaner and a lot cheaper, and actually less maintenance that goes along with the units if we do have them.
So the purpose of this position is environmental, not reliability?
All of it. It's environmental. It's reliability, right? It's more of us sustaining us through the peak that we need to get through. Having the additional, when you look for additional megawatts to put on the line right now, those are the first 2 units that we see. Same as Camalache 1, right? Repairing the other units that we currently have in Aguirre, Con Cominal. Other than that, I could have said Palo Seco 1 and 2, but those units need to be mothballed, right? So there is no investment in those units to try to get them up to speed. San Juan 8, from what I've recalled and what I've read before, was a unit that was operational, but because of the EPA requirements we have to get over with because of the emissions, we don't run them, right? So Palo Seco 2 was offline for 2 years. Yes, it's going to come back. We're going to find issues. These units are super old. But what we're looking for is a generation that we could acquire now, right? So the minuscule rate increase to get those 200 megawatts is a lot cheaper than trying to put a rate to get 200 megawatts of current generation that it is today.
But you weren't saying that you would necessarily have to get that other 200 megawatts. That's what I meant when I asked you what was the consequence to adequacy.
Okay.
Did I misinterpret you?
No. Maybe I misinterpreted the question you asked. So we're looking at the government is looking for 800 megawatts of power. They're actually looking for 3,000 megawatts of power. So 200 megawatts of power. Hey, look, we could use these units. Let's go small investment. Let's get these units back online. That'll help reduce that amount. I've been here for over a year and I haven't seen anything new. I've heard a lot. I've heard we were going to have 800 megawatts by the end of the summer. We're still waiting on it.
So here's 200 megawatts. You're going to have.
Megawatts, knowing that it's under our control, we can say, hey, if you give me this, I can guarantee you I can get at least 200 megawatts back.
All right, thank you.
This is Commissioner Ramos.
Just a follow-up question.
Okay.
So let me see if I understand. You'll spend a year and a half converting the units, and it will run for at least a year before it breaks down, more or less. So I will have 200 megawatts in 2 or 3 years from now.
Commissioner, that's a good question. I can't guarantee.
No, I know you.
Right. Look, I bought a brand new car. I took it off the lot and had a check engine light. Became a lemon after 2.5 years. Okay, the idea is we could rehabilitate these 2 units, get to 200 megawatts, get to 150 megawatts, right? Something, right? Could they last? Yes. The idea is for it to run forever without failing. And when the beauty about having additional reserve, what happens is it gives me an opportunity to take that unit out programmed, right? So knowing that I have an additional 200 megawatts, I could, hey, this unit could run. Hey, I need to take this out because we're starting to see things differently now and how to operate the units, how it was previously operated. We're not operating in the same MO or the same MO of how they operate. We're operating different. We're understanding what's going on with the units. We want the units to be as reliable as possible, right? But it takes a little bit of funding to do that. That's all.
Yeah, I don't want to be disrespectful, but the car analogy, it's fine, but you paid for that car, so you take the risk. Here we're telling the ratepayers to pay and take that risk. And that's what we as commissioners have to make sure that the ratepayers are taking the less risk possible. Because the truth is, I've been here for 5 years, and I know Aguirre, I think it's Aguirre too. They've always been telling us, oh, we need to put money that's going to give us 450 megawatts. And that unit, every 2 weeks, it's down. And we keep on putting money. So that's what we cannot afford to keep on telling the ratepayers to do. So if we tell them 125 million to see if these units last a year, that's not a good decision for the ratepayers. And that's what we need to, that's the information that we need from the experts, that's Genera and the consultants and everyone.
But you can't look at it as it's going to last a year, right? It's available generation that's there. It has to go through it has to go through maintenance. It's going to have maintenance cycles. We look at different key performance indicators, right? Plant outages, maintenance outages, our forest outages to see where we need to allocate the funds to, right? Well, when if that unit is putting, let's say just one unit, right? And it's putting out 100 megawatts and something breaks. If it's not offline, it's still generating power. It may be a little bit derated, right? So the thing to understand is yes, we could put 200 megawatts on the line. 200 megawatts is available. Yes, it may fail, it might not, but it's 200 megawatts. It's there, right? That's right there that we can use. Right? That's the biggest difference. There's a concept of thinking it's not going to fail, right? If it fails for something that we missed. If we catch it and we understand it, that our job is to prevent the repeated events. That's it. Right? That's how you could get that unit as reliable as possible.
Yeah, but the energy political policy is actually getting private investors to come to Puerto Rico and take the risk and invest and provide electricity, and not have the ratepayers taking the risk.
I understand. I understand about the risk, and it's I'm okay.
Okay.
Right?
So what does this have to do with the TM units? Because I know they were asking questions about the temporary units.
You're gonna have to repeat the question.
14 units. So I want to know what does.
You may have to repeat the question again because
No, I think
not you.
Oh.
Who,
Yeah, what's the relationship with the TM units and with what you guys were talking about in the beginning?
Thank you, Commissioner. If Mr. Ingeniero Justo González can elaborate, si puede elaborar en la recomendación y la relación que tiene las unidades 8 y 10 de San Juan con las unidades TM 2500.
Sí. Para agregar, ¿verdad?, a la pregunta, sí, las unidades TM 2500 son, ¿verdad?, nosotros llamamos mobile pack, pues se pueden mover, se pueden reutilizar distintos lugares, ya fueron fijas en el área de Palo Seco y San Juan y operan principalmente con gas natural. Yo estoy de acuerdo con el uso del gas natural, quiero aclararlo aquí, debido a que en términos ambientales es mucho más amigable para el ambiente. Yo no sé quiénes han tenido experiencia de trabajar con el búnker. Sí, yo he tenido experiencia de trabajar con el búnker, sí. Y aquello no es nada fácil trabajar con el búnker, sí, en términos ambientales y todo lo que produce. Pero, porque las unidades TM 2500 son 14 unidades actualmente instaladas. Unidades de 25 megavatios que se multiplican, ¿verdad? Ya sobrepasa la cantidad de 200 megavatios que estamos hablando aquí, ¿ok? Que de acuerdo a lo que presenta nuestro amigo Scott, ¿verdad? Ha sido parte de lo que es adecuacidad de la generación, preferible decirlo en inglés, ¿verdad? Generation adequacy, ¿verdad? En esos términos, pues ya los tienes con las TM 2000.
Pero ¿cuál es su recomendación al comisionado?
Nuestra recomendación.
Que se queden las 14 unidades, que sean baseload. Es lo que ustedes quieren que nosotros decidamos.
A esas unidades se le van a añadir 3 más, que está en proceso de procurement. Ahora mismo lo está llevando a cabo Alianza Público-Privada con la Autoridad de Energía Eléctrica. 3 más que se van a unir, que van a sobrepasar 400 megavatios. Mi recomendación es que se dejen más tiempo. Estamos viendo el plan de estabilización del sistema eléctrico. Un paciente que en un momento dado se estaba muriendo por un ataque al corazón y se está atendiendo ese ataque al corazón, lejos de una situación que puede tener en una uña o en un dedo del pie. Vamos a atender el ataque al corazón. Esas unidades, junto con las 3 unidades que vienen, suman todas 17 unidades. Esas 17 unidades sobrepasan 400 megavatios en capacidad. Entonces, quemando gas natural serían altamente económicos comparadas en términos costo-efectividad con las unidades 7 a 10 de San Juan. Y quiero aclarar un punto aquí. No tenemos una vara mágica en el área de San Juan para seguir añadiendo unidades y seguir añadiendo unidades que si, ¿verdad? Mencionando, si viene Energisa en un futuro, no caben técnicamente. ¿Por qué no caben? Porque hay que esperar el estudio de interconexión que sea Luma o su subcontratado que haga, donde dice que hay unos límites de la capacidad interruptiva en el área metropolitana y hay unos límites también en las corrientes de cortocircuito. Y
Ok,
aún,
y perdona que lo interrumpa, que quiero seguir la línea de pensamiento. O sea, usted recomienda que las 17 unidades, esas son 14 más 3, que esas 3 unidades se van a comprar con fondos federales que ya están asignados o es fondo privado de gobierno. Si usted sabe,
son fondos federales.
fondos federales.
Sí, entonces lo que yo estoy proponiendo es que esas 17 unidades sustituyan a las unidades, empezando con las 8 y 10 y posteriormente las 7 y 10, las 7 y 9 posteriormente. Pero aclarando, ¿verdad? Que va a entrar otra nueva generación si entra Energisa. Ya tiene que sustituir, hay que apagar máquinas, no cabe.
Ok, quiero quedarme con las 17, las 14 unidades que tenemos actualmente. Ya las 8 y las 10 sabemos la posición. Genera, tiene una postura. Do you have a different approach than Justo's approach for those 14 / possible 17 units to stay online in the system? More time?
Just 1 second. I just want to remind the questioners to take a pause before asking a question so that the translator can complete the witness's answer and vice versa. Everybody take care because we're hanging on every word. Mr. Quinoy.
Thank you. To your point, we believe and we know that the 14 units are necessary. We see them run on the peaking times. Our position is that we need additional generation to maintain a healthy reserve that otherwise would come in, just like Mr. Gonzalez, Engineer Gonzalez says, while we have Energisa, you're talking over 5 years probably. Our point of view is today we need it. We have to find ways of maintaining a healthy reserve until, just like Mr. Scott said, we can get additional reserves.
But then I hear there's no controversy between the PREP consultant and Genera for those 17 units. We both believe they should stay in the system until we have enough baseload generation.
Correct. The discrepancy was on whether we could get 200 additional megawatts from 8 and 10 in San Juan. That was the whole controversy.
That was the only controversy. Okay.
This is Commissioner Ramos. Are you finished?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. Is Genera testifying that if we convert, first of all, Mr. Scott, is that? I believe you said that there won't be any derating of the units if we convert it to gas. I have personally read professional reports that state otherwise.
There shouldn't be no derating on it, and I'm comparing it based off currently right now, Coastal Sewer 5 and 6. Right, Coastal Sewer 5 is a unit that's nameplate rated capacity is 410 megawatts, and right now on gas I'm pushing 410 megawatts.
Is Coastal Sewer 5 the same type of technology as?
It's a thermal. It's a thermal unit, just like 1 and 2. 1 and 2. I mean, it's 8 and 9. Sorry, 8 and 9. It's just lower.
Same type of boiler, lower capacity. Huh? Okay.
The boiler manufacturer, I don't know off the top of my head, but usually thermal units are pretty much the same. Thermal units are thermal unit. You know, they all have their superheat. They all have water wall tubes, you know, reheaters and so forth, right? So it's all depends on that once the analysis comes back on the type of tube to use, right? Because it's not using the same tubes that are currently installed.
Okay. Now, Genera did not segregate the cost of repairing 8 and 10 versus the conversion. There's a lump sum of $125 million to repair and convert the 4 units. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Is there any way that we could segregate? And you also stated that 7 and 9 are being fixed by the. that came in after the petition, does that modify the $125 million that you asked for the repair and conversion?
The estimate, the 125 million, was a high level estimate discussed with OEMs to figure more or less a ballpark figure of the current situation of the units and the cost. Officially, you need to open up the units. You need to do a lot of inspections to finalize a real number on this. So right now, this is a high level estimate of the cost to repair and to the gas in
So you're telling
transition.
So you're testifying that it could be a lot higher than the $125 million.
When we discuss with the OEMs, we asked for a conservative number. So they gave us that number as a good estimate for the transition or to the repair and the transition from liquid to gas.
Okay. Last question. Is it possible to have 400 watts out of San Juan, units 7, 8, 9, and 10, plus the 17 generators and San Juan 5 and 6 all at the same time?
Yeah, so currently right now, right, so that puts about, it's about 200 and I think it's 250 megawatts that are there. The San Juan 7 and 8 at 7 and 9 that are currently on right now. 9 that's currently on is at 84 megawatts. We're just waiting for our outage to make the repairs to bring it back up because it was putting out 100 megawatts. So I have to say that unit's going to put its 100 megawatts. And also numbers, you have the 250.
Genera wants to repair 8 and 9, right? So
Correct.
if we do repair 8 and 9, is it possible to have 8, 9, 7 and 9? I'm sorry, 7 to 10 operational, the temporary generators, and San Juan 5 and 6, all of those working and generating simultaneously. Is that possible?
That's possible, but again, it all depends on load conditions and so forth. But there is a possibility that yes, it could run all at the same time with the generation that's putting out. Just maybe for everybody to understand, Genera only produces 60% of the generation here on the island. Okay, the other 40 are coming from AES, Eco, Hydro, Solar. So that's about 1,000, let's say 1,000 megawatts that that are on the grid. Those megawatts go away. We have to have additional generation. If we're running at 400, 700 megawatts of reserve, and I lose this generation fast, then we're in the same predicament. It's the reason why we're trying to look for every little megawatt that we can find anywhere.
I understand that, Mr. School. I'm just trying to determine if it's possible to have all this generation that you want to fix and have back online.
It's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Scoot, just want to get some clarity as to the comment on the rating. You mentioned Costa Sur 5 and 6 as examples of a place where you didn't have to derate. Can you compare if they're operationally similar to the San Juan 8 and 10?
Those units, they before operation, they were running on bunker C. So San Juan 8 and 10 run on bunker C. So technology-wise, it's the same. The equipment is bigger in Costa Sur and versus Palo Seco. You're looking at size-wise, but technology the same. Their vintage is similar, right? So yes, could there be a D-rate? Yes, there may be a D-rate, but the hindsight is if we replace the tubes, if they do the study correctly, they find the right match for tubes. Hey, you're going to do conversion, don't use this one, use this model, because you could get the heat transfer. The idea is to always have the same output, right? The same output that we want to achieve.
Thank you. And same question to Mr. González, Ingeniero González. Usted en su testimonio y aquí indicó que existiría ese derating. ¿Usted pudiera comparar y explicar si son operacionalmente similares Costa Sur con San Juan 8 y 10?
González, para efectos de récord, ambas unidades de Costa Sur son de la línea Combustion Engineer, que ahora son GE. Las de San Juan son Babcock and Wilcox. Son completamente diferentes de manufactura, aunque son similares en términos de lo que es termoeléctrica. Quiero hacer una aclaración aquí. En el términos de las unidades de Costa Sur, las calderas son para capacidad de 450 megavatios, igual, idénticas a la de Aguirre. Lo único que cambia es la composición del fondo de las calderas y el área de colocación de los air heaters. La caldera es de mayor capacidad que la que tenía la turbina. La turbina y el generador es para 410 megavatios. Las calderas eran para 450 megavatios. El derating fue absorbido en la caldera. Y aún con todo y eso, dio los 410 y más le da hasta 412, que yo, sí, y yo lo quiero decir aquí, ¿verdad? Porque es la realidad. Y yo tengo, eso es Snapshot, que dio 412 y felicito, ¿verdad? Por ese trabajo de reparación que se hizo. Pero la realidad es que las unidades de San Juan, la caldera está diseñada justamente para 100 megavatios, no para 150. Por lo tanto, van a ver un derating en potencia en la salida de máquinas bien marcado. Y yo auguro sobre 35 megavatios. O sea, que estamos hablando que esas calderas quedarían por ahí cerca de 60 a 65 megavatios. Y hacer esa conversión ya no tendría 100 megavatios en gas natural. Más la posibilidad de daños por la concentración de gases convectivos con alta temperatura, áreas de superheater y el área de alta de la caldera. Eso es lo que auguraría que pasaría.
Finalmente, y con esto concluyo, ingeniero González, además de las consideraciones económicas, la reparación y la operación de San Juan 8 y 10, ¿tendría alguna consecuencia en términos de seguridad de operación o algunos otros elementos a considerarse más allá de los económicos?
Correcto. Correcto. Hay asuntos de seguridad. Calderas que son de los años 60, que su tecnología era de esos años, convertirlas a gas natural. Estamos corriendo un riesgo. Habría que invertirle mucho para llevar a cumplimiento esas calderas. Aquí afectaría tanto la seguridad en términos del equipo como el safety al personal. Inclusive, cualquier consulta que se haga a underwriters o compañías de seguro hablarían por sí mismos relacionado a esto. Recomiendo que hagan esas consultas.
And going back to Mr. Scooter, Mr. Guignoy, in your cost-benefit analysis, did you take these elements into consideration, and are they part of those cost considerations?
The initial discussions that were done with the OEMs was specifically to talk about converting the units and operating them. And in the feedback that we got was that conversion could be possible in the area of that amount of money. And we should convert that if an OEM does a dual fuel change or a conversion, if you want to call it, to gas, they will cover within their scope of work the safety issues so that the unit can run and operate properly and safely.
And in terms of the insurance cost that Mr. Gonzalez alludes to, is that something that you believe to be true? Would insurance costs be considerably higher?
I could not talk about insurance. that's not my area of expertise. I believe there's going to be a panel where they talk about insurance, and we could probably address it at that point.
Thank you, Mr. Guinoy. No more questions.
Okay, colleagues, let's talk about schedule. I have 12:30. Let me take a poll here and see what has to happen next. So we have witnesses from different perspectives. So there's two separate cross-examinations that have to occur. And right now we're strictly talking about this item on the agenda, which is the deployment, which is the temporary generation solutions. Let me see, with respect to cross-examining the Genera witnesses, do we have an estimate? Mr. Brady? Can you write this down?
First, a clarification. There was extended discussion about the gas conversion of San Juan units 7 through 10, which I also see as a separate agenda under plant retirement and conversion, topic 2E1. So I'm happy to do that cross now, given that it was discussed extensively today, but I just wanted to clarify in terms of the agenda structure.
Yeah, thank you for that alertness. The answer is yes, you would cross on that topic now. Would that be okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, so with that, do you have a rough estimate?
Give me a moment.
Okay. Same question of counsel for Genera. And I want to see if anybody else is interested in this topic, recognizing that we have about 7 other topics between now and I have to teach tonight, so we're not staying till 6:30. If you have them, they will happen after lunch.
30 to 45 minutes.
Okay. And Ms. Vasquez?
15 minutes.
Okay, a second. Mr. Gonzalez, can you give me an estimate, please? Mr. Victor Gonzalez? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let's take our break. I have 12:35. Let's come back at 1:40, please. Thank you for the morning. See you later.